Hi everyone. Hello. It is I. So I think this is probably too loud. Not me, the background music. So I usually turn it down to right about there. Hey, hi everybody. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. It is I, Trooper SJP, and this is the Academic Foxhole. And it is a Saturday, and we're playing the Outer Worlds, which we have not played in a while, because I did 3 Saturdays in a row where I was playing A State of Affairs. So I think it's been like a month since we've played the Outer Worlds, is what I think. Hi! Hey, everyone! I really need donuts. I need donuts, everyone. This is what I need. Wizard Styles, Varum Lumen, hey everyone, Origami Shuriken, Ice Bunny Rissa. I saw some other folks here earlier. Scabinak. Hey everybody, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. You look like someone who was on the way to a party. Oh, really? I'm just wearing a shirt. I'm just wearing a shirt. I feel like I'm not even very fancy. I don't feel fancy. So, you know what I didn't do? I don't really need it because it's the daytime, but I didn't turn on my special light. Oh, look at that. It's not going to go on, is it? I don't know if I told you this, but I've had this, oh, thanks. I don't think I would wear this shirt to a party. I feel like it's a little bit too casual, unless it were a very casual party. I think if I were going to go to a party, I'd probably wear a button-down shirt, unless it were like, I don't know, people sitting around. Unless it were like, you know, not a party, but like a people sitting around being drunk party. I always feel that somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Hey, Pretzel25. Thank you for following me. You know, Pretzel, I don't think I've told you this, probably because I haven't, but pretzels in Germany are delish. In Germany, they're real good. And I think it's hard to get really good pretzels in the US. I mean, you can get them. You have to go to a place, but like there's some like super delish pretzels in Germany. I'm just giving you that bit of note. To be fair, this is as close to a party as most have had this year. That's actually probably true. Hello, Antarctic. That is true. Wizard says, speaking of needing donuts, which I do, guess who realized today that the holidays are followed by a Sunday this year, and there's no way to buy groceries? Wait, I have a question. Wizard Styles, I need to ask a follow-up question for a friend. I have to ask a follow-up question for a friend. Not for me, but just for a friend. Let's say, as an example, that you are a person who, at the moment, does not have a lot of groceries in your refrigerator. This is just like as an example, Wizard Styles. Are you saying that today, which is a Saturday, is not a day to buy groceries? Theoretically speaking, I'm not saying that I need to go and buy groceries, but were I needing, like, isn't today not a holiday? Like, aren't things open in, like, hey Pretzel, how are you? Laugenbrezen, good pretzel. It's Boxing Day. This is the first legit time day I realized it was a Saturday, right? So, wait. Oh, okay. So I feel like I should maybe. So, Wizard Styles, if you cannot get groceries, in Germany, if you wanted to get groceries when things were closed, which by the way was always, you would just go to the train station. Wizard, I don't know. This is my question. I don't know, Rissa. I don't think I'd wear this to Cthulhumas. I think I'd try to wear something a little bit nicer because like Cthulhumas is a very nice party. It's like, you know, I feel like everyone's very nice. Yeah. Hello, Fluto. Number 1, Fluto 1. That's yeah. Oh, you're doing a day of fasting. Boxing Day is a UK holiday. I think it might also be for a lot of the former colonies. Anarchdevian, I think it's like the day after Christmas where you box up all of your presents, I think is why they call it that. So it's like, so the day after Christmas in the UK is a holiday. Also Canada. I have no idea if it's also a holiday in Australia. I cannot tell you that. Yes. Today is Tapanenpeva. So a lot of the places that would be open Sundays are ordinarily, I see. Hey, Anino, how are you? Welcome in. I was just thinking about you and wrestling. Because in Germany, the two, yeah. So I lived in Germany, right? Oh, I had a story I think I wanted to tell you all. So I lived in Germany from 1992 to 1997. And when I was living in Germany, I always feel that somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Whoa, I always feel that somebody's watching me. Tell me, is it just a dream? Hello, the grinning moon. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Come on in. We're hanging out. Christmas Stollen. Hey, Anino, I would love some of that Christmas Stollen because delish. It's just a dream. So when I lived in Germany from 92 to 97, right when I was leaving, there was a big debate about whether or not they should change the store opening hours. So when I lived in Germany, all stores closed at 6 p.m. during the week. They closed at 2 p.m. on Saturdays and were not open on Sundays at all. And I will just note that was sometimes awkward if you worked sort of late, or like sometimes it was not easy to get your groceries. Speaking of groceries, that's a bad segue, but I do want to tell you, the name game. Come on, everybody. I said, now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F, or an M will appear. And then I say bow at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and foe. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain, then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. But if the first two letters are ever the same, I drop them both, then say the name. I like Bob, Bob drop the B's, Bo, or Fred, Fred drop the F's, fo, red, or Mary, Mary drop the M's, mo, airy. That's the only rule that is contrary. Be right, bo, E right, banana, fana, fo, fee right, fee, fi, mo, me right. Be right. Thank you for that resub, Be Right UK. Be right back. No, that's good. I like that. That is really good. This is good. So you pronounce the A's really well. It really bothers me when people not from Nordic countries pronounce them just as A when they're not A. It's its own letter. Sure, but see, a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it because they don't know, right? They didn't learn it. Right, so you have to it's like I don't really know how to pronounce. I don't know the Russian alphabet, so like that's always hard. I have to like transliterate. But I did live in Germany, so I mean it's not the same. And I know that like the Nordic, like I don't know how to pronounce the A with the little circle over it. I don't know what that vowel sound is, because that I did not learn that one. But but I would try to find out because I try. I try not to mispronounce people's stuff, because I feel like that's a little rude. I know that sometimes I'm going to get it, but I try. Wizard says, oh yeah, I remember that debate. Very dimly, because I would have been 9 or 10 at the time. Suffice to say that several stores near me are now open until 10? Wizard Styles, hold up. Rewind. Wait, midnight? Also 10 p.m. in Germany? What? Okay. Hold up. We have to talk about this for a moment, because this was super interesting. It's a bit of a culture shock for me, and I want to talk about it. It's interesting. Ice Bunny says, yeah, bad memories now. A lot of shops are open until 7 p.m. and Sundays all is still closed unless you're cool shopping at the Danish border shops, and then they don't let you get canned drinks even when you're an expat. So this was the big debate, right? Like I remember it was like the end of it was like, 96, 97. The unemployment was not super great in Germany at the time. And everything shut down at 6 during the week, 2 on Saturdays, and not open on Sundays. And there was this big discussion about extending the store hours. And I remember that it was a pretty big debate. Like there was a big debate about it. And I remember a couple of things, right? So yes, Ice Bunny, that one, the A with a little circle over it, I do not know how that vowel is pronounced because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that vowel is pronounced. I'll have to look it up. So you can't, if you went to a pub, you could, but it's just that most things were shut down, right? So here's the thing. Most things were shut down, but like restaurants were still open. So you could still go to a restaurant. You could still get a pub. Like you could go to like a pub or a restaurant and still get stuff on Sundays. Yeah. But I remember when I first got to Germany as an American, because you know how it is in the United States, that's when the A and the O sound have a baby. Gas stations as well. Yeah, totally. Gas stations, the train station, like things were still open. Is it an ah or an A? You say it's when the A and the O have a baby, but is that an ah or an A? Like is it a long A? Because like there are like a bunch of different A sounds. If it's like an ah and an O, or if it's an A and an O, well, but in German it's the E. Oh, you're saying ah, right? Ah, A, E, O, U. Probably. Maybe it's the sound that Tim Allen likes. Maybe. No. Yeah. So they were going to extend the store hours. So anyway, I get to Germany. This is really interesting, right? So I get to Germany, and all of a sudden things are closed, and I was like, what? Because in the United States things often don't close, and so that was weird. And like having things be not open on Sunday was very weird for me. Having things be closed at 2 p.m. on a Saturday was pretty weird for me. And my German friends were like, mah, mah, mah. So when they're having this debate, I thought this was super interesting. When they had the debate, they wanted to, like, the debate for extending the store hours. And this is why what Wizard Styles tells me is, like, really shocking to me. So there was this debate about extending the store hours, and the argument for extending the store hours was, this was not my argument would be something different. The argument for extending the store hours was that if we extend store hours, then that will, people will hire more workers, right? Because if there are more store hours, you need to hire more workers, and so there'll be more jobs made. The argument was to sort of decrease unemployment. Basically every store that is open on Sundays and holidays will have alcohol, tobacco, yeah. Starting a circus and arguing. Hey, I understand arguing on Twitter. I do understand it. No, it's different. Like it's different, Baron Tor. It's interesting. So there was this idea that it would like basically, if you extended the store hours, it would decrease unemployment because people would hire more people. The pushback was actually, I don't think that's true because they weren't talking about extending store hours very long, but like just like 2 hours. So people were like, I don't think actually that will work. But what was really interesting to me as an American who grew up in the United States, which is how it is, was the arguments against extending store hours. So I remember when they were having, I should probably tell you one more thing. I'm bad explaining the A, but I know how you say it even though we don't have the A in Finnish, but because Swedish is our second language, we have the A in our alphabet. Yeah, like, perhaps, if it's like an A and an O, something like that maybe. Okay, so back up before I talk about these arguments in favor of extending for store hours. You have to know something else. Germany, I believe, has more holidays than any of the other countries in Europe. And the holidays you get in Germany, like there are a bunch of religious holidays, and they depend on the religion of your state. So some states get the Catholic holidays, some states get the Protestant holidays. Bavaria got both the Protestant and the Catholic holidays. So Bavaria had more holidays than the rest of Germany. Augsburg got one more holiday than the rest of Bavaria because the war between the Catholics and the Protestants, the treaty, the Augsburger Friedens, something or other, can't remember the name. There was like a treaty that was signed that sort of basically ended the religious wars, and that was signed in Augsburg, the town I lived in, which was an independent city at the time. And so Augsburg had like one extra holiday than the rest of Bavaria, which had more holidays than the rest of Germany, which had more holidays than the rest of Europe. 1 week, Bayern has more not... yeah, that's what I said, right? Yeah, the Augsburger Frieden, there's another word. It's the Augsburger Friedens, something or other. Yeah, but my understanding is that Germany has more than the rest of Europe, Bavaria has more than Germany, and Augsburg has more than Bavaria. So like basically, Augsburg was like always on holiday all the time. Like things were always closed in Augsburg, where I lived. It's like is it a holiday? Who knows? It's probably a holiday. It was always a holiday. People need holidays, but they shouldn't all be on the same day, which would be it was the big peace treaty. It was the Augsburger Friedens something. Augsburger Friedens noun. Augsburger Friedens something. The Peace of Augsburg, yeah. It's but in Germany, give it to me, German. That's why Fischhead's teeds the Lederhosen. Hey, we were on vacation. The Augs, it's from the Reformation. It's called the. Some people don't have homes or storage or ovens, etc., and so everyone can just hunker down for it. Krellin. I have another comment to make that is a sort of a yes and to what you're saying. It's a yes and to what you're saying, but I've got to actually get the name of this thing first, or else I'm going to be super distracted. It's the Augsburger Friedens. It's like there's a. Thank you, Wizard Styles. Right, it's the Augsburger Reichs- und Religionsfrieden. I knew that it was like a little bit longer than that. So the arguments, but if you don't know the name of the thing, his name is Bob. Bob's your uncle. So the arguments against extending the store hours was. That it wasn't actually going to create more jobs, and this was really interesting, the difference. So by the way, Germany was always on vacation. Side note, for people who are not Americans, I should also just note that in Germany, people would get like, 6 weeks vacation a year, I think? About. Thanks to H. Bomber, I'm playing in New Vegas again. Oh. Plus that, the Bayern play very bad handball. Whatever, Ice Bunny. Whatever. But I'll tell you what, we play very good soccer, Fußball. Just gonna note that one. Just gonna note it. So always in holiday, right? All the time holiday. And then, right, there's this thing with the store hours. So I should probably watch H Bomber Guy's Fallout New Vegas video. Okay, so here are the arguments, and this is like, right? Oh yeah, right. So in Germany, like 6 weeks vacation, and like really good sick days as well. And in the United States, many people have zero vacation. So like we don't have a lot of vacation in the United States. Minimum 24 days by law, usually 30, right? And like, yeah, I'm planning to move from Germany to Switzerland. I'm a little shocked by how much I'd have to actually, work. Maybe you're right. You're probably right. Sometimes what I don't do is watch them. I have them in the background as I'm doing something else. Like, yeah, United States, we often, like, there are people in the US that just have zero vacation at all, right? So, like, and some people only get, like, 1 or 2 weeks vacation. People always mock Americans for not traveling abroad, but I was like, we often don't have vacation. And our country's so large, many people in the US don't have passports. Like our lack of traveling sometimes has to do with the fact that we don't have the best labor conditions. It's not that we're, I don't know, lazy or whatever. That is true, Krellin. So these were the arguments against extending store hours that were so not American. I thought was really fascinating. And that was Also, have you ever been to Ohio? I have never been to Ohio, but one of my very best friends is from Ohio, and I would like. No, actually, I have been to Ohio. I lied to you, but I've been there. But I've been in Columbus, but for a conference, and going to a state or a place for a conference doesn't really count because you don't really see the state. You're in a conference hotel, listening to musicologists talk about things. One of the worst things about losing the job I have will be going from 4 weeks to an indeterminate number of vacation days. Or yeah. Foosball has no goals, 0-0 after 90 minutes. That would be earth me bad. I came out vacation time, but we're so busy I can't really use it. Oh, yeah. Oh, Krillin, you lived in Ohio? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, conferences all look the same. Astral Tide says, typically I get a check at the end of the year for whatever's accumulated. Astral Tide, you should be able to get vacation, Ohio's about to be no thanks. Yeah, the only thing you get to see during conferences is the bar. It's true, right? Yes. So, yeah, right. So here's what happened. Thank you, Krillin. So the arguments about not extending store hours I thought were really fascinating because it said a lot about the difference between the United States and Germany, at least as like an American living there. They said, one, extending the store hours would be unfair to small businesses because small businesses would not be able to afford to hire people for extra time, either hire new people or extend people's hours and pay them sort of extra hours. So it would only benefit large stores and large businesses, and that's not fair. So that was one of the arguments against extending store hours, that it wouldn't be fair to small business. So that was one which I thought was really fascinating because I was like, yeah, I don't think that we would care about that. I think we'd be like, whatever, if you're small, die. Like, I just don't think we would care. And then the second argument, which I thought was really fascinating, which again is just not how Americans are at all. And they did reference America in the second argument, which was, if you make the laws so that the store hours are extended, then stores, like big stores, small stores may not be able to, but big stores will 100% definitely extend those hours. And they said, that's not good for society because, and this is like, it's just like a very different way of sort of thinking about things. They said, it's important to have times when stores are not open because not everybody should be working all those times. They said, we don't want people working on holidays. We want people with their friends and family. We want there to be times when people are not working because it's not good. It's just, they were like, it's just not good for society for people to be working at midnight or 2 a.m. or on Christmas Day. They're like, what do you want us to be like the United States where everyone's working, like where people, probably poorer people, have to work on, Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever. They don't have Thanksgiving, but you know what I mean. And like the idea that it wasn't good for society to have people working 24 hours a day, and that's why they shouldn't extend the store hours. I was like, yeah, in the US, someone's gonna be working at 2 a.m. because we feel like, right. It was a trip to like have people make an argument that it's actually just better for people to be able to have times to hang out with their friends and not be working as a society, as a collective. And I was like, wow, I am so American. I really had to think about that because that would not have been an argument that would ever have occurred to me as an American. Scabianac says, I only brought up Ohio because me going to Ohio would be like someone in Germany visiting France. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Dread Pirate Denise's husband was just complaining that he has to take vacation or lose it because he failed to turn the paperwork to get paid. Oh, yeah. Fair. I will only work on holidays and not any other time. Problem solved. Right. And Barentor says it's similar to here in the US when stores started being open on Thanksgiving Day, where it used to be everything was closed, but a few gas stations. It's true. Day after Black Friday was the big shopping day. Now you've got early Black Friday or Thanksgiving earlier. Yeah. It was the churches as people go there every Sunday unless it's Christmas. Oh, but also like none of my friends were like the argument that was being made at the time was not about church. It was about how it's actually important for people to just have time with each other. I'm sure churches were making that argument, but people I was seeing, the politicians, right? And I know that people were complaining about that in the United States, Barentor, when people started having to work, like when Walmart and Best Buy and all those stores started opening like on Christmas Day, and people had to start working Christmas Day. People were like, oh, that's messed up. Yeah, there has been some pushback against extending Black Friday. Yeah, but the people I knew were making the argument on a sort of a secular way. And what was really interesting to me was that this was like they were like, we can't do this. This is bad for society to do this. And I thought, wow, that's not generally how Americans talk or think about it. I mean, it's true, right, about Thanksgiving. Some stores are making a point to state that they're not open to the yeah, and that becomes like this whole new statement, like we're not going to do this, and like whereas like that just became a norm. And so here's the thing. This goes back to what Wizard Style said. So after I left, they did extend the store hours. They extended the store hours to 8 p.m. during the week, 4 p.m. on Saturday, and then not open on Sunday. And extending it to 8 p.m. was like considered kind of radical, and a lot of people were really upset about it because they're like, this is not good. We don't need stores open until 8 p.m. And so Wizard Styles is now saying that some stores are open till midnight in Germany, and that like 10 is now the standard. So it's gone from 6 p.m. when I was there and people complaining about going to 8 to midnight to 10 p.m. Like, I just feel like Germany has clearly changed a whole lot since I've been there. And it kind of blows my mind, since it was such a huge debate while I was there that stores should not be open later than 6 p.m., which we'll get to my pushback in a moment. And to hear that they're open till midnight now is wild. I was like, wow, what happened, Germany? Krellin says, in my experience, which is American, obviously, single people often don't get to spend time with family during holidays. They just have to stay home and do nothing. You know what's really bad for society? Society. People, what a bunch of assholes. B. Wright says, there were similar arguments in the UK. Oh, that's interesting. As shops used to close on a Wednesday afternoon for staff training, Saturday afternoon, and all day Sunday. The only remaining restriction now is large stores have restricted hours on Sunday. Oh, that's really interesting. So basically, what's really fascinating is the idea of like when things should be open or closed. Wizard Style says, they did extend store hours, but Sundays and holidays are generally still off limits, although not to all kinds of stores. So that's interesting. What was a typical office worker's workday like in Germany at the time? Oh, this is really interesting. There's also a thing that's, I just read a really, we're talking about labor. This is so exciting to me. Sorry, especially since it's Outer Worlds. I was just reading an interesting article about a thing that is in Germany that there's sort of tension about. My understanding is that in Germany, you are not, like, once you get off work, you cannot go back to work for 8 hours. Like, there's a thing basically about, like, you're not allowed to work too long, and people cannot call you back into work too soon. Germans love to complain about everything. If they once don't complain, I would be worried that something is wrong. My German friends didn't seem that complainy, but like there's a whole, like there's like I can't remember what it's called, but there's like this thing that's kind of sacrosanct that you need to have time off, right? That like you need to have 8 hours when you're not working in a row. I can't remember what it's called, but there's like a thing for it. We have some chain supermarkets that aren't open on Sundays because they have a religious background, and you always have to go, oh right, they're closed today when you want to go there. Yeah. So this thing where you're not allowed to work, like you have to be off of work for 8 hours in a row, that you cannot work, like that is a thing, is apparently there's a lot of tension around email, apparently, because, and I know that France actually just passed a law. They passed a law a couple of years ago saying that you cannot answer work email when you're not at work. And there's this thing about like email, like people, because you know how like the economy, like the work pace is a little bit different nowadays, where people sometimes will work from home or they're working these different ways. And that means that some people are violating this do not work for 8 hours in a row thing. And that's like apparently a bit of a controversy in Germany as well, that they're like, you should not work for 8 hours. Like, so apparently there's a thing. Yeah, Krell's like, answering email off hours is work. Germany and France are correct. But so like, it's just a different sort of attitude about work, which I think is fascinating. Krellin says, then again, the country of America is the size of Europe. It's true. And it's a lot easier for extended family to move away to the equivalent of Spain or Estonia than the single my state-sized country of Germany. If the furthest family could move away was Raton, then my experience would probably be different. Yeah, but also I know a lot of people like in Germany who just didn't move away from their town that they grew up in as well. Do you know what I mean? And also there's trains, and like there's a lot of stuff that like makes that a little bit different. Ice Bunny says, my brother married the Queen of Nag and complaining, but she's a sweetheart. Yeah. Astral Tide says, had a snowstorm last week here in New Hampshire. Oh, I'm in Massachusetts. I'm actually technically in New York, but I'll be moving back to Massachusetts in 6 months. I worked 17 hours straight and then had 4 hours to rest and back for another. Yeah. That would just not be legal in Germany. They just wouldn't let you do that. Like that would not be okay. Like that would not work, Astral. Faison says, they opened up OT at my work and one of my folks chose to work 91 hours last week. Ugh, and I can't live like that anymore, though I'm sure his paycheck this week was nice. Raton. Raton. I think the French law was not that you could choose to ignore work calls, but that you were, yeah, but that's right, be right. You were forbidden from answering them. Yeah. So, unless you're self-employed. So there's like a lot of this. So it's really interesting to me that they've changed, but let me tell you why I did not like the store hours. So I'm gonna make a couple of complaints about the German system. Just note it. Gonna make a couple of complaints about the German system. And the complaints are going to be something about, okay, so left-leaning Americans tend to see Europe as like the promised land of greatness. Like what they do there is great and we should do what they do there because it's amazing and it's perfect and like it's so great and it's so progressive, right? If you were a soldier working on a US base, you probably worked 8 to 5 and that's never had time to go to this. Krellin is getting to where I was going to go to. Krellin is getting to where I was going to go to. So Krellin. So people like to sort of frame Europe as like this really progressive place and that we should do all the things they do because they're amazing and they do all the stuff. And there are a couple of things that are pointed to. 8 to 5 army, has it easy then. So there are a couple of things that there were a couple of things that we point to as like this greatness. So like Germany, for example, you get a year's worth of maternity leave, or paternity leave, I think, but that's paid. But you can take up to, I think, 3 years total. Like those, like year 2 and 3, you wouldn't get paid, but you can get your job back after the 3 years. Hold on. I'm going to point out, Krellin, I was tactical intelligence my entire time in the military. I was never strategic intelligence. So I spent quite a lot of time in the field. Quite a lot of it. So just for the record, tactical intelligence rather than strategic intelligence, and that is different. Yeah. So right, there's this idea, like, so like you can get like 3 years leave, maternity, I think maternity leave, and after the 3 years you can come back. And like the store hours are like great for community and family. And I'm just going to point out a couple of the perhaps unintended consequences from both of those policies that end up not being that progressive because sexism is a thing. Also being single sucked, right? So if you work 9 to 5 in Germany, which I worked really weird hours. When I was in the army, I was working depended. Like I was working swing shift 2 to 10 for quite a bit of time, and then there was one point in time they switched us back over to days, which was basically 9 to 5. But it's important to note that if you're working like 9 to 5 in the army, or if you're doing like swing is 2 to 10, mids is 10 to 6, and then like days is 6 to 2. If you're working those hours, that's just the time you're actually in work. You also then have to do your PT as well. So like it's like 9 to 5, but then there's also PT. So that's like another 2 or so hours on top of that. Yeah. Baron Tour, I wasn't counting PT, right? So like I was counting 9 to 5, but not counting PT. So if you're doing PT, it's like 6 to 5, like 6 to 5, 6 to 6. From a stall community standpoint, how much has changed in 3 years? Yeah. Is that why you had a 15 tweet thread on tactical RPGs? Maybe. On base every day with 6 for aspects of PT. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because like I wasn't counting PT. That was just like the actual work part. Krellin says, oh yeah, I bet their societal expectation was a single working spouse and an unmarried spouse to do the shopping. That almost always means a working husband and an unemployed wife. That is correct. That is correct. Because the way the store hours were, there was a lot of pressure for people to be married, right? Or to be in a couple cohabitating. And for one of those people, usually the woman, to not be working. Because it is very difficult as either a cohabitating couple where both people work full-time, or a single person that works full-time to get groceries. Like it's like your Saturday and like everything is swamped at that point in time. So like I would say that as a single person who worked full-time, it was very, very difficult to get groceries and to function in a place whose progressiveness was basically centered around encouraging women not to work. Well, let's just put it that way. Like, it was very, very difficult if that was not your life. If you were not like a married couple with an unemployed, with a stay-at-home spouse, which was usually a woman, that was very, very difficult. It was difficult. And there's another thing that follows up on this. Ice Bunny says, 3 years, but my sister-in-law got my niece 9 years ago, and in her mommy group, most women went back after a half a year because the family could not make ends meet. And most women with kids work part-time because childcare is pre-K from 3 to 6 and pre-K is from 8 to 12. So, but also I'll note that Germany actually gives you money for like, there's like, at least in Bavaria, there was like money for if you had kids, and there was like much better childcare than the United States. Ice Bunny, in the United States, you have no idea how expensive childcare is in the US. It's like $20,000-$30,000 a year for some people. Like it can be very, very bad. It can be really bad. Vulpus says, I haven't worked only an 8-hour shift in 20 years. Part of being self-employed in my industry, yeah. Live events is always that it's based on at least a 10-hour day. Yes. And then with the time off, so I taught English. That's what I taught English, and I taught a lot of businesses. Taught a lot of people in businesses English. And I remember I was working at this one company. Like, I went there, I was teaching them English. And this company was like a progressive, cool company, you know? Childcare is ridiculous, to the point I became a stay-at-home dad because my wife could make enough for us and I worked the vast majority of my paycheck. Yeah, I mean, like, the childcare is I mean, it's, right? Oftentimes being self-employed is a full-time job, yeah. For some fairly affluent families, it is literally the better financial choice for one spouse to stay at home with kids than to pay for childcare. Totally, 100%. But many do away with because working so much is part of society. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's right. Like, I mean, when I talk to my friends who are like my friends who are professors, right, for whom it's really, really like, and they're professors even in it. But of course, it's not like professors make rich person's money. We make over the average sometimes, sometimes not. But like, it's hard. Scabbynack says, one of the reasons my sister and her husband moved back near family, was because childcare in Pittsburgh was so expensive. As part of the cost of living being so expensive, they could take a massive pay cut and still end up being with more money at the end of the, yeah, right. And that becomes this thing where, like, do you have family that can do childcare for you? Do you have like a grandma or grandpa who can do that childcare for you? Do you have a good relationship with your, like, because if you don't, or you moved away, then it becomes really hard. Ice Bunny says, in Denmark, you get maternity leave for 1 year, but it's expected that you have to send your baby to the nanny because people expect you to work full 8 hours pre-K years. Yeah. Even that expensive a city. Yeah. Barrington says, yeah, in Seattle, we'd both been working about 90% of my pay would have gone to, yeah, I mean, that's terrible, right? Take out gas and was working to have my kids somewhere else. Yeah, right? I mean, like, it just, yeah. So here's the thing. So I was working at this company. This company was pretty progressive. And so they had me teach twice. So I taught 2 different classes there. Normally they would only have like 1, but they had 2 classes. 1 for all the executives and then 1 for all the secretarial staff. And I remember teaching business English, we're teaching English, and I'm teaching the executives, and the executives were complaining about how hard it was to get entry-level managers that actually knew the company, the company was a publisher. They published magazines, like architectural magazines, like really kind of expensive, fancy magazines. They were like a published, like they had like a printing press and all that kind of stuff, right? So they published like these kind of like big, fancy magazines and brochures and things like that. And they were like, it's really hard to get managers who can do the job, who understand printing and understand the job. It was like really hard to find people. They would hire people that went to university for business management, and they could not do the job. They were not very good, but they had a degree in business management. They went to university in business management. Right now, says PH, my friend is having his parents over to babysit a lot, but his dad is high risk for COVID, so I just make marginal adjustments over here. Yeah. My brother and I were raising the great grandparents, and that was not the best for his kids. Yeah, so they were trying to find people who could do, because basically, right, Germany has a class-based education system, more or less, right? So the people who had business management degrees sort of like went to the higher education, but they were not actually particularly good. So then I'm over I'm also teaching the secretarial staff, who were all women, by the way. All of them were women, and they were smart. They had way better English than the executives. They were really smart. They knew the business. They were really good. And I remember thinking these people would be really amazing entry-level managers. Like they would be way more than less. Two people raised me, the latch and the key. They would have been amazing entry-level managers, right? They would have been amazing middle-level managers. They would because they had all the skills that the executives complained that their people that they hired from university did not have. And I remember I asked, God knows running printing press is a manual skill, so lower class. So, hey, Schmelzer. So I asked them, I said, so why wouldn't you just maybe hire one of your secretaries to be these entry-level managers? Isn't that the trope that the high-powered executive would be completely useless without their secretary? This was not the reason they gave why they didn't hire the secretaries to be managers. Two things. One is that the secretaries did not go to gymnasium, so they did not have a university degree. They went to Realschule, which is like the middle. So basically, there's like a tiered education system, right? Where you only get to go to university if you go to gymnasium, if you get your Abitur, and that would qualify you for a lot of jobs. If you go to Realschule, then you are qualified for things like nursing and secretarial, things like that. If you go to the Hauptschule, which is like the lowest level, your social mobility in Germany after your teen years is no, and it's actually not even your teen years, because at least in Bavaria, when I was there, you took that test when you were like 12, right? So educators too, yep. But if you go to Hauptschule, you could be like a bricklayer or a painter or a baker. But the problem is that people who had the Abitur started taking jobs that were Realschule qualified, and that means that Realschule people started taking Hauptschule qualified jobs, which means if you went to Hauptschule, it was like real bad. Anyway, so there was a particular kind of like educational barrier so that they didn't have the qualifications. Yeah, 12, nebulous year when you're no longer a child but not yet a teen, yeah. And I remember asking them if they would hire these women who were super qualified for the job, maybe a little bit overqualified, if they would ever hire them. And their answer was no, because they would just get pregnant and then we would lose them for 3 years and have to hire them back. So basically, and I taught a lot of different businesses while I lived in Germany, because that was like a lot of the clients. And it was almost always the same, that because women could take maternity leave for 3 years was the reason that they were not promoted to any kind of good position. It was just really hard to get promoted if you were a woman into any kind of sort of position of responsibility, because people would just say, yeah, they're just going to get pregnant. And if they're going to get pregnant, then they're going to be gone for up to 3 years, and then we're not going to have them, and then we have to hire them back. So we're just not going to promote them. So it is lousy astral tides. What test trooper the class teacher decides in 4th grade on what kind of school they think you can go, and the judge and this. Oh yeah, but there was also a test. But if you were upper class and you didn't do particularly well on that test, you could still pass in, right? So did the U.S. get that they might get pregnant thing from Germany or vice versa, or do we have probably convergent? But I mean, the difference is that they had. I mean, here's the thing, right? I mean, like, so Mike, in many cases, it's possible to essentially move up to a school tier after graduation by way of evening classes in Germany. But that means you have to fit that into your adult life. And the legislation is very specific and honest. Yes. And also, you have to fit it into your adult life, and you have to be able to, like, that's hard to do if, let me put it this way. A lot of people I know who went to Hauptschule, who were not queer, were married and had kids already, right? By the time they would have gotten to the space where they would have maybe gone to evening classes, they already were married and had kids, and they had financial responsibilities, and they couldn't just really afford to do that. You know what I mean? And then, of course, all their friends were mostly also went to Hauptschule. Like, there's like there's these social pressures. Like, it's doable, but there are social pressures that make it very difficult. And that then becomes baked in, right? Hey, Prax. And I was thinking about this. Like, I was thinking, there's a woman I knew. She was the secretary for the language school that I taught at. She was super great, so smart. She spoke like 3 or 4 languages. She was so cool, really awesome. And I said to her, I said, oh, hey, why didn't you go to gymnasium? I asked. I was just curious. Why didn't you go to gymnasium? And her response was, this is what she told me. And again, remember, this was like 1995, 96, 97, so maybe it's very different, although I don't know. Also, it was Bavaria, which is more conservative than some of the other Bundesländer and also a bit more rural, so that's also a factor. It might have been different if you lived in Berlin, but this is what it was like in Bavaria. Yeah, it feels, yeah. Although I did want to finish that thought. My colleagues that I know who got pregnant went back to work within 2 or 3 weeks. Like they didn't take hardly any time. Like I know a lot of women who get pregnant in the US who go back to work within weeks. Within weeks they go back to work, or else they will lose their job. You know what I mean? So there's that. Yeah. Lonku says, what you say was true, but it shifts. My experience is hiring women pays off in the long run. It does. Yes, they might get a kid or 2 or 3, but they stay in the company and they're loyal. It's true, Lonku, but if you don't want to promote women in the first place because you're sexist, right? Like if you don't want to, it's a good excuse. Like it's not true. Like it's not, how do I say this? Lonku, I think you are right if the women are more loyal and it pays off in the long run. But if you just didn't want to hire them, that's the excuse you can give. Do you know what I mean? So it's like basically the excuse. On the pregnancy thing, that even happens in the Marines. I had other higher ups saying they wouldn't send females on floats, on floater lots of long operations because they could just get pregnant to get out of them. Right, but, and here's the thing, it's also not accurate in the, like also in the military, Marines, Army, etc. Men are off of work for more time than women are, even with pregnancy, mostly because men get into fights and get do stupid things and injure themselves. Like, so basically men lose more time, work time than women do, even with women's pregnancy in the military. But of course it's the excuse, right? It's the excuse, it's not the reality. You cannot imagine how much I am the oddball when I run into some of the kids. I'm like, oh yeah. We shift to official dystopia soon? Yes. Yeah. So wait, so what point is it making that women go to the US? Mostly Paladin, because we don't have, worker protections in the United States. So you can just fire people in the US, generally speaking. That's the thing that happens. Yeah, Rissa, I just want to finish the one thought and then we'll finish it, which is not pregnancy. Right, job, schooling, that's what it was. It's not even a thing about being conservative per se. Hamburg, for example, had a huge debate about unifying their schools. Oh, really, Wizard? I didn't know that. Because as liberal as Hamburg generally is, that tends to end when, yeah. No, PH, it's bad. Yeah, like, I'm just saying, like, it's bad here. I don't, it's bad here. Yeah. Yeah, so like there was like, so, oh yeah, right. So she said that I wanted to finish this thought, right? That was the thought I wanted to finish. So I asked her, why didn't you go to gymnasium? And her response was, she grew up in a small town, right? Kind of like a rural town. There was no gymnasium in the small town where she was at, so she would have to commute outside of the town to go to gymnasium. And none of her friends, because she was kind of like a farming town, right? None of her friends were going to gymnasium, none of them. So she would be the only person that she knew who was going to go to gymnasium. And her parents said to her, when she was again like 12, you're not going to gymnasium because you're just going to get married anyway. So what's the point? It's just a waste, right? So she went to Realschule instead because her parents were like, we're not going to send our daughter to gymnasium because that is a waste. That's a waste. So, right, like that's a right. So like there are a lot of ways in which the United States is awful in many ways, but some things that seem progressive in Europe end up being progressive in various ways. So it's just kind of tricky. It's tricky, right? So it's basically the US often thinks that like everything over in Europe is perfect, but sometimes that's not true. Also, it's not great here either. But like, you know, that's all I'm going to say. John Galt's America. Oh, that's weird. My email notification said you're playing. Yeah, that was a mistake, Astral Tides. That was a mistake. I switched over my title. I try to keep like keep one game on Thursdays and a separate game on Saturdays, so that if a person can only come on Thursdays and they don't miss something, or if they only can come on Saturdays. Oh, see ya, Pretzel. Thank you. There was one other thing I wanted to say about that, the bureaucracy of Imperial China seems... Oh, come on in my house, come on. Come on in my house, come on. Come on in my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on in my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Prax, thank you, Prax, for the host. It is much appreciated. Yeah. So, Pretzel, we'll see you later. Yeah, so I try to go and like switch it up so that people don't if they can only, because like sometimes my European friends can only come on Saturdays, so I want people to... Ooh, hello, make a primal. Okay, so there's a bunch of that. I will say this though. Oh, we're in. Okay, well, people are here. There's shooting, and I'm doing madness right now. I don't even know what I'm doing. What's happening? We're gonna do this. I did not expect there to be a fight right now, but there is a fight right now, which was not what I wanted. Also, I feel like maybe I should not be using a pistol right now, but I am, because my pistol does the most damage, and so that's that right now. We're in life. This is it. Okay, great. I was just trying to finish a thought. Game. Oh. And that was one of the reasons I was sent to householding school and get the nanny training, which would be how to... Yeah. Another distraction for you, with appreciation for the conversation, exploration of sometimes challenging topics. Thank you. I'm gonna... ooh, wrong button. Here. There we go. I want this one. That's what I want. Thank you for those bits. In gratitude for those bits, I'm going to sing We're in the Money, as sung by Ginger Rogers, from the film Gold Diggers 1933, which... Oh, thank you, Jer. Thank you. Which means I'm going to sing it in Pig Latin after I turn up the volume just a little bit. And so... Irway and hey, the anime. Irway and hey, the anime. Eve way at gaily at way at wakes to take gaily on way. Irway and hey, the anime. Either I skays or any say. Old man, the aviation pray, we are they stay on way hungry. Even eat red landsley, have red brandsley, day. And when we see the end, the order will look left, the eye guy in the eye, we're in the money. We're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along. Eee! That makes me really excited. Thank you. So this is about education. I was hanging out with my buddies in Germany. Ooh, I have to take all that. Thank you. I was hanging out with my buddies in Germany, and I was in a bar, and scrap metal. I was in a bar, and I was chatting with a woman that I met there, and she was from Eichach, kind of a small town, and she was a baker, which I was like, that's cool. Tell me what it's like to be a baker, because Volpez, that is an amazing emote. I love it. And I was like, yeah, what's it like being a baker? Because I don't know. So we were just chatting, right? It was cool. And then I went back to my regular friends who I hung out with, who were all law students, by the way. And I was like, hey, I met this cool person over there who is a baker. And their response to me, and these were like my liberal cool friends, were like, oh, a baker? That means she probably just went to Hauptschule, which means I don't really know why you'd talk to her. And I was like, whoa, what? Right? And that was distressing to me. That was distressing to me, right? And I will say this, the US, has got a lot of problems, and that is a true statement that I will stand by, and I will own it, right? As a US person, like, I know we're messed up. That said, Why would a beta talk? Yeah, why would a beta talk? Yeah. That said, one thing I will say that at least in the United States, my high school diploma is the same high school diploma on paper as everyone else's high school diploma, which means if I said to you, yeah, I graduated from George Washington High, or I graduated from Fremont High, or I graduated from, because I went to 3 different high schools, right? And all those 3 different high schools were very different high schools, but you don't know what those schools are. You don't know what they're like. You can't necessarily judge me because like you don't know what school I went to. Do you know what I mean? So like I don't have a fundamentally different primary education certificate than somebody else. We still segregate ourselves on education. Not every college. No, I'm just talking about high school. The world has a lot of problems. That's true. I'm just talking about high school, right? That like my high school and your high school, you don't. I graduated from Valhalla, did not make it. Yeah, interesting. Every time someone learns where I went to high school, I get a look that screams, "Why are you only an accountant?" But like, tell me where you went to high school. Because I don't think we're from the same state, right? Like I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure unless you went to like I just don't know what your high school was, right? Like I don't know your high school. So if you told me what high school you went to, I just don't think I would have no context for what kind of high school that is. We'd have to go through the trouble of looking at your grades. Yeah. Unfortunately, I went to a public high school in a town with a really fancy private school, and there was definitely some insularity and looking down. Oh, totally. Then that's the thing, right? Face on, if you stay in that town, people are going to know, and they might say something about it. But if you step out of that place, people are probably not going to know unless like you go to one of those like I don't know, particularly famous private schools, which I don't know that place. Oh, I didn't even read that. I need to read that. Well, I said in Danish, if we can if you want, but I may talk so fast for you. And she got, you went to a high school with Mitt Romney's kids. Oh, but if you just told me the name of your high school, I wouldn't know it. Do you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't know it because I'm not even from there. But that faded a lot out in the actual workforce. Yeah. Yeah, I did not go to high school. I'm not considered fit for work. Oh, anarchy, that's yeah, only local thing. Townies versus private schools, always a pain. My mom didn't graduate high school because she was kicked out of her home when she was 16. She just lied about it. She just lied about her high school. Like, I mean, that, right? You know, she just said she graduated high school. She didn't. They didn't know. What do they know? So, you know, she just lied. I think it was fine. It worked for her, right? She was like, yeah, I graduated high school. Graduated so-and-so high school. Romney is from Massachusetts. I'm from California, so I actually have no idea. Like, I know that the East Coast, like I know that New England has like fancy private schools. I don't know any of their names because I did not grow up here. So I don't know if like Cadwallader Executive School is like I don't know. I just don't know the names of like I don't know New England fancy people. Yeah, nobody's checking high school diploma. I was like, yeah. Captain's log, independent freighter, getaway sticks. Oh, I wanted to retire on Groundbreaker. One more job, I told myself. Never had any trouble with outlaws until now. I told them what we were hauling, but they shut off comms and opened fire again. They're shooting to wound. It's only a matter of time before this bird falls out of the sky. So I'm settling her down in hopes that we can broker some agreeable term of surrender. Even if it means my head, at least the crew gets a fighting chance. Can't shake the feeling that they were ready for me, like they knew exactly which route I'd take. What a way to end a career. Well, that seems ominous. That seems ominous. And you know, like my high school was pretty much like the one in the version in the movie Simple Woman. Oh, huh. Faison says, coming into the workforce around the .com boom, I have several friends who have become incredibly successful in tech without college degrees. Mm-hmm. My mom also lied about high school. She told them she had 5 years of high school, which lasted 5 years. She didn't mention that she had to repeat 2 grades and never finished. She was there for 5 years, though. Sherry says, to be fair, if someone talks about high school, they're often looked down on by those with a college degree. Yeah, I think that has changed some, right? I think that has accelerated. Like when I was a kid, I don't think that was as much the case. Or Actually, it's kind of difficult to say. It's hard for me to say if that was the case back when. I mean, we know that statistically more people in the US have at least 2 years college degrees than they did before. And that when I was a kid, people without college degrees had much higher employment rates than they do now. So there clearly has been a shift in the value of a high school diploma from when I was a kid till now. However, I don't know how much weird classism would have been happening back then because I was only hanging out with working class people. So like I lived in a working class neighborhood. My parents were working class. I mean, I went to like my third high school was kind of like a suburban high school with people who were fancy, but I didn't hang out with them. So I don't really know what their business was. So I don't know if it was a big deal back when I was a kid but I didn't know it because I was hanging out with working class people, or if it wasn't as much of a big deal back then because employment rates were different, like employment like I actually just don't know. I don't know. I was one of 2 Asian kids in my class, and I was the one on financial aid. Yeah. Again, I don't. Oh, see, that's good. I feel like this pistol's great. Oh, here we go. They see us. Hello. I'm gonna just do some shooting. It'll be cool. There we go. That was great. I think my pistol's really great for mechs. One of whom basically refused to do his senior English paper, so he didn't graduate high school and just got his GED and got an associate degree after. Iceman says, the thing I considered a very bad thing in Germany is that you must send your kids to school even when that is not benefiting the tiny person. And if they skip class, the parents can be fined. And if they want to homeschool, the authorities can take the kids away and punish the parents. Well, back before the 80s, 90s, high school diplomas showed that you had been perfectly trained to work in a factory, and there were still a lot of factories to work in. Yeah, right. So like I feel like it was different. But I will say homeschooling is a controversial topic, Ice Bunny, because not all homeschooling is the same. And what homeschooling means can mean a lot of different things. Like we have people in the United States who homeschool because they don't want their kids to learn science. Or other things. Like we have like some great homeschooling, and then we also have like super sketch homeschooling, and like there are people who like don't want their kids to learn things, and that's why they homeschool them, and they get like religious exceptions, and like I mean there's where are we? Like so there's some things that are like there's like not all homeschooling is the same is what I would say. There's some homeschooling that is great and awesome, and there's some homeschooling that is less great and less awesome. And there's also sort of questions with child abuse. I was reading a really interesting article about people in the Quiverful, like there's a kind of a particular offshoot of the Quiverful movement. I always thought they have to take exams. No. To be fair, some homeschooling is done to protect kids from bullying. Yep. But are the parents the best equipped to provide an education? Like, I'm a university professor, and I know that I'm not qualified to teach a full complement of high school classes. Like, I can't teach. I'm not qualified really to teach somebody, like, chemistry. I don't think I'd be very good at that. I'm absolutely against homeschooling for that reason. As bad as the education system may be, a bad system can at least be fixed. There's no way to fix bad parents. But of course, some parents have to homeschool because, I mean, for many reasons, some schools don't have, some kids have special needs, and the schools do not provide special needs education, so that they have to be homeschooled because they're just not going to get the education otherwise, which really sucks, right? Like that's awful. Right, like so like I feel like there are a lot of factors in there that make it really, really complicated. I'm gonna sell something maybe, right? I'm gonna sell because I know that you all want me to sell things, and so I will if there are things that I can sell and not feel guilty about. Like I suppose I could sell this. maybe, oh, I probably should not. I don't know if I should have sold that. What if I shouldn't have? What if that was like the last thing that I wanted to sell, and maybe I'm ruining my life by selling some of these things and I'll regret it forever? Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll be fine. Like, you know what? I'm sure it's fine, right? Like, what if I shouldn't have sold that? What if all the things I'm selling I need, and then I'm sad forever because I sold the wrong. Okay, that's it. Now we're gonna sell. These, right? We're gonna sell that. It's fine. I feel very concerned about all this, but it's cool. There, we sold some stuff. Some people don't live. Some people don't live near a school, right? So they have to homeschool. Some people are being bullied. Some people, the education they're getting does not work for their kids. I think there are very legitimate reasons to homeschool. It's just that what the homeschooling is depends. Like there's a wide variety of homeschooling. Okay, that admittedly is not really something you need to consider here in Germany. That's true. We have some really rural spaces where it's just not actually feasible. The big problem now is pandemic. Oh, yeah. The big problem now is pandemic-induced homeschooling, distance learning. I think it's still way too soon to put minors back in a classroom. Yeah, and that's also there, right? Under U.S. law, children are basically the property of their parents with some protections, but basically the same level of ownership of a pet. That's also true, Carlin. Those unique weapons, the stuff you're carrying around, there's a box in the cabinet. Yeah, I should do that. I should put them in there. I'm going to do that. My sister takes her first grader and is having the worst time this year because she is not prepared to be a teacher this year, but she has no choice. Yeah, that's another problem too, actually. The distance learning is a real problem around here. Most people don't have access to anything faster than bad DSL. That's another problem with distance learning. I think I'd feel confident to teach K to 6th or 7th grade because I basically learned how to lesson plan as an educator in pre-K special. But here's the thing, Ice Buddy. I'm going to just note this. There is a thing that we have in the U.S. It's a thing. We're kind of anti-intellectual in the U.S. And we really don't respect teaching very often. There's a phrase that people like to say, which is those who can do, those who can't teach. And many people think, and this is it is a thing that many people think that teachers are lazy and get paid too much for doing no work, right? That they barely work at all. They work just like a couple of hours and they're super lazy, and really anyone could do it. Like anyone could teach, because it is not, many people don't think of teaching as a skill, and they really think that anyone could do it. And so, Faison's like, I hate that saying so much. Yeah. Good thing the FCC refuses the internet be a utility, which it should be. A friend of mine homeschools because their kid is deep into ballet and training. Oh, that's another one. Actually, Faison, that's another one where some kids are actually working, right? Like either they're working because they're child actors or whatever, or they're really big into ballet or sports and they need to do homeschooling because they're doing this other thing basically full time. I feel like there's a way in here, and I don't know what it is yet. We're just going to find it out. I think we look down on teaching because of racism and sexism. Oh yeah. Because for so much for history, schools got really great teachers for cheap, and because that was the only well-educated. Yeah, and what's interesting to me is that we actually used to respect teaching more when women in POC were not doing the job, and the more women in POC do a job, and not just teaching, but any job, the less it tends to get respect in society, because I think we all know why. And so, like, for example, university professors tend to get more respect because there are more men in that job. And hey, everybody. Oh, I know what's happening right now. I'm going back to my ship because we finished this entire area, and we're just going to go and fly to the next part of this place. This is what we're doing, by the way. I now know what is happening in our life. I have worked out what's going on. I love my teacher friends so much. Thank you. So many teachers in the lower grades pay for kids' supplies out of their own pockets, which, yep. And don't get paid enough to be human shields. I mean, it's, yeah. I definitely had some law professors whose skill was not in teaching, because it is a skill, right? Like, I mean, it's a skill. Like, to be able to teach well is, like, it's not easy. Teachers should be paid way more, but on the other hand, being paid less promotes the fact that those who are passionate about teaching will follow their dream versus someone. But here's the thing about that, Astral Tides. I just feel like the idea about being passionate is an excuse not to pay people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing. I have, I was watching a debate. It was like during one of the elections. I don't think it was this last one, or might have been like 8 years ago. It was some time ago, where Iceman says, well, super only play for 8 hours a day and get money for it. Not that you have 28 tinies and you're one educator and one assistant. 28, we have sometimes 40, 45. And my BFF is a special needs specialist, and that means she's about 3 or more kids of the 28 kids that need special attention because they don't get help. Yeah. A passionate teacher is not automatically a good one. It's like when your boss tells you we're like one big family. Passion really quick when faced with reality. Yeah, I mean, actually. Oh, by the way, I'm going to do that thing. Right, I've got that captain's quarters thing. There's a like most like 80 to 90% of teachers stop teaching within the first 5 years of teaching because they're not, you know. Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna transfer some stuff over because I'm gonna transfer over these guns because I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna transfer over all the special guns to clear up my inventory a little bit. Although I think that one I can probably sell on that one too, so we'll put those in there, and then we'll transfer over my armor stuff, and there, I transferred over stuff. See, I'm like being very responsible. I am so responsible. So many people threw that in my face when they found out how much I charge for teaching martial. Ooh, if a workplace describes themselves as a family, it's because they expect you to make sacrifices for no benefit. Yeah. Look at what's going on with the backlash about Biden's wife being called a doctor because you are thank you. So here's the thing about passion, and this is like, I think, I was watching, I don't think I have any messages. So I was watching this debate. It was a debate on education, right? It was like for the, politics and education. And so there were like a bunch of educators there who were going to ask the candidates like education questions. You know how it is. And I remember being super irritated because every single educator started their, can I just take these? Cool. Started their comment with something like this. Hi, I'm an educator. I teach, it's lemonade fresh. Cool. I teach whatever grade they teach, and I spend sparklings in this unit's middle name, a steeper designed to kill germs rather than people. Oh. Unlocks the perk clean sweep for Sam. Huh. Interesting. Rock hard and slightly discolored, these moldy Rizzo's sweetheart cakes are decades beyond their no more refunds after this date. Ooh. Stop worshiping MDs. They stole the name doctor. That is true. The special name is Medicaid, not doctor. So each one of these teachers, kick me, would start their comment with something like this. Hey, I'm a teacher. I teach so-and-so, and I have to have 2 jobs. I have to work part-time in order to feed afford to live. And also I pay for all of my school supplies out of my own pocket. And I do it because I love it. I don't do it for the money. I just do it because I love it. And that's why I do it. And every single time, right? It's always they're explaining really abusive work situations and then saying that they don't do it. They do it because they love it. They don't do it for the money. And then everyone would applaud them. And I'm like, that's exploitation though. I've never heard a CEO who makes $1 million a year saying oh, I don't do it for the money. Most other jobs, by the way, I'm a little bit frozen. So I'm going to expect that this is probably going to, we're going to get back to it in a second, but I expect that this is going to, yep, I was disconnected. I've got to reconnect. It's fine. You know what I mean? The funniest thing to me is the argument that only MDs should call themselves doctors, which has been forwarded by a few people. Yep, read Biden. Medical doctorate is a joke. Med school is the hard part. The doctorate is something you just kind of get. Yeah, I've not met a medical doctor whose thesis took more than a year. Yeah, actually, I have a friend of mine who's a doctor who has an MD and also a PhD, and that PhD was like a medical, like she got a medical PhD, and that medical PhD, she was like, that medical PhD was really hard because it involved like a lot of research, and like apparently like medical PhDs are, but like most doctors don't have medical PhDs. I've been told many times by people that I should be a teacher. I like the thought, but I just work a different job and teach for free on the side. Yeah. They're advertising. Yeah. It's been a tough year for all of us. We're here with you. Yeah. It's signaling that they are a Yeah. Right. But also, I think it wasn't just that they're virtuous. I think it's that they feel guilty about wanting money. Right. I think that there's like they have to say that they don't do it for the money, because if they said they wanted money, people would think bad things about them. Like, oh, like, you know, like there's something bad about them. Right. You can't get a PhD without discovering something no one has else discovered. PhDs are hard. Wizard Style says, I mean, I would contest that because med school is a lot more work than getting a master's. Oh, well, it depends. That's true. It depends on the master's. But the actual earning a doctorate part is generally very easy for medical. Yeah. Axe says, hi, I'm a quality assurance specialist at a major luxury auto finance bank. I don't make enough money to afford what I finance, much less a home of my own. I don't do it for the money, though. I do it because I love giving rich people more atrociously expensive shit. Yes. And here's the thing. I don't know if you know Philosophy Tube, but Philosophy Tube just has had a new video out where he talks about jobs that he had and like labor and all that. And he talks about how hero jobs. And he talks that we sort of create these things called hero jobs. Society creates hero jobs that are usually really hard, really dangerous, not fun, and then also underpaid and exploited. But we make them hero jobs. So like doing it is like noble. So it's like, yeah, you're getting black lung in the mines, but like being a miner is like the backbone of America. Like you're a hero. No, we actually are not. The workplace environment is not safe, and we're not paying you well, and we're certainly not giving you good enough health insurance, but it's okay because you're a hero, right? So like there are certain jobs that we make them hero jobs so that we could basically exploit people and have people not feel bad about it. Farmers is another one. Farmers, PH, that was such a great video, right? Farmers, miners, educators, like there are these certain jobs that we basically use propaganda to say that it's okay that we're underpaying you because your job is just so important. But if we're so important, then maybe we would pay you more, right? Honestly, you have to try very hard to fail a PhD. In that sense, it's not hard. It's a long time of working long hours, being underpaid, and statistically speaking, developing one or more mental illnesses. But you know what, though? A lot of people don't finish their PhD because I would say that actually a PhD is hard a lot, and like, i.e. developing more mental illnesses. Like it is not an easy thing to get your PhD. And that's why I think so many people just don't finish, because if it were not hard, people would not be developing mental illnesses is all I'm saying, right? Like that's all I'm saying, that if it were like not hard, people would not be dropping out and ending with depression and anxiety and who knows what, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying that I think it's just not, also, it actually can be physically hard as well. It's not like working at a construction site, but it's actually not that easy to do that job. Yeah, it can be a lot of fun when you make a difference for the kids, but that's because you have a relation to the kids and the parents. Yeah, like a lot of people drop out. They don't finish. Gosh, I'm like thinking about people I know who have dropped out, sometimes because they couldn't do the work because it was too hard, sometimes because oh gosh, sorry, you're just making me think about my time getting my PhD right now. I wanted to ask about this Harlow guy.
Sure thing.
And I'm thinking about
Clyde was my first friend, but he was also my mentor. Taught me how to think, how to question.
I feel like I need to turn up the volume.
I figured the board got him in the end. Some guys with black uniforms snatching him off the street in the middle of the night or something.
Well, I don't know. I did not finish mine, which is a small regret, but a larger good decision. I went to teach school and dropped out. Yeah, sometimes also because of money. And when I say money, what I mean by that is like, because if you get to like a good PhD program, usually not in the sciences, but like in the arts and humanities, you probably are not going to be paying for the PhD itself, because they will usually pay you for those first 5 years at least. But like when I was getting my PhD, which was, by the way, I entered my PhD program in 2001. Yes, astral tides, right? A PhD can take 8 years of schooling and work, and that sounds challenging. And it might take more than 8 years, depending, right? Depending on what your field is and all of that, and what kind of work you have to do. Like if you have to do field work, that's going to take more time. Verum says, being a volunteer educator, I have the luxury of drawing some boundaries of what I will and won't do. I wouldn't want to be in the sort of environment. My friends, oh yeah. So yeah, Verum. But like when I was I entered my PhD program when I was 29. And I was 29 years old. I entered my PhD program 2001. I got my first job, which was a visiting professorship for 1 year in 2008. So that was 7 years, although I didn't actually get my PhD until the year after. So technically it was 8 years, but I don't think it should count. And because I don't, anyway, still mad about a certain kind of paperwork thing. I don't want to talk about it. It's stupid, but I'm still mad about it. But so that was 7 years from 29 to 36, where I was making $17,000 a year. So I was making $17,000 a year in Los Angeles, which is a very expensive place to live. How do I put this? For a lot of reasons, that was fine for me. It was hard, right? Sort of doing full-time work, more than full-time work, extra full-time work, having to like go to conferences, all the things you have to do with your PhD, dealing with, there's just a lot that went on there, while also making $17,000 in your 30s. And yeah, 17K wouldn't even cover basic survival in rural Arkansas. Like it was not easy to do that. But I was A, single, B, had been in the Army first, then I had basically been living off of no money since I was 18 anyway. So it wasn't that big of a sacrifice for me to live on 17 grand a year. It was not fun, and it was kind of terrible, and I wasn't getting paid in the summer. So like my summers were always like full of anxiety and misery. And like, if I didn't get enough work as an extra or whatever, then I probably would have been homeless and starved to death. Like it was bad, but I could deal with it. However, I had colleagues who also, other things, right? Like I knew people who were like 34. They wanted to get married and settle down, but they were in a PhD program. Many of them dropped out, right? Because they were like, I can't, I'm over 30 years old and I'm still living like I'm a student and I would like to start my life. And so many of them quit because like, it's hard to be like in your 30s and living like but also some of them were married. Some of them had kids. It is really hard to be married and unsettled and have kids and be making 17 grand a year. You know what I mean? Like that is hard. That's hard. And so for many people, it was just financially, even though the PhD was paid for, like they didn't have to pay tuition or anything. That's just not a lot. That's just hard, And that's not even counting people who are getting PhDs in sciences who don't get any money at all. Right, like that's hard. Manually handling multi-handicapped kids and teens is demanding, but I will not miss the lessons my kids taught me about what the good life is when your world is tiny. Yeah. B. Wright says, I decided to draw the line after 4 years as I had doubts about the core direction, was working more in business than university, and I did not feel I could take the time out to properly prepare the thesis and viva voce. Oh, there's some other things that would come in as well. Well, what's hard is really dealing with the conditions for most people I know, including me. If you stick it out, and that is a big if, you get a PhD no matter how good your research actually is eventually. Depends on your field. The only PhD student I've known to not have their contract renewed before they finished had massive drug problems and had them before they started, so that is not the case. Yeah, So scrub, yeah, actually, like, yeah, it's actually true. Like, the only reason I was able to like survive in the summer is because I like worked as an extra on Scrubs and like some of the other shows. We should have made you take gas money when you would drive down for Whispers. I was gonna come down there anyway. But, and here's the other thing, that I know people who the work itself was actually too hard, right? Like, it's actually hard to write a thesis. Like, that takes a lot of skills, and sometimes they don't have the skills. I have known people, depends on your field, right? Like, this depends on your field a little bit. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky in terms of...
Yeah, I was just a lonely orphan kid getting my knuckles dirty. Clyde, I want to say he saw some potential in me. Like as not, he just took pity on me. So he took me in, gave me a place to live, gave me something to believe in.
I've known people in the sciences who've not got their PhDs because of the work. And by that, I mean, it's a little bit different for me because my field is in the humanities, so it's a little bit different. But I knew people who spent years working on experiments for, like, you know, cognitive psych, chemistry, whatever. Like, they spent years working on this experiment, and then it didn't work out. So all of their research was basically considered invalid, and they just spent 6 or 7 years working on this thing, which didn't work out. And those people quit. They quit their PhD, right? Because the experiment failed, and they just couldn't face spending or afford to spend, or they were let go. Like, I know people in the sciences who were let go because their thing failed, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, nah, like they couldn't face doing years more, can create a brand new experiment from the beginning and start from scratch. And also their advisors were no longer interested. And so, like, I've known people in the sciences who've been let go from their PhD programs because their work didn't work out. And don't you have to teach when you do your PhD, says Ice Bunny? It depends on the school you go to. But sometimes if you have a university contract, then generally yes, but sometimes your contract is with an institute or even a company. It depends on your field. I would say many schools give you the opportunity to teach while you're there. Usually maybe like 2 or 3 years maybe of TAing. It's usually TAing, not teaching, but you're TAing. But some schools, it also depends on your field. For example, many of the people in the sciences don't teach at all. They just do lab work instead. They don't get a TA-ship. They get like a research assistantship. So I know a bunch of people in the sciences who've never done any teaching during their PhD program because that's just, they do lab work instead. Depends on the science, of course, but I know a bunch of people in the sciences who just don't do any teaching during their PhD. Now, people in the arts and humanities and social sciences often do teaching, but it also depends on your school. Harvard, famously or infamously, you would get when you're getting your PhD in Harvard, they would have you do no teaching at all because they could afford it so that you didn't have to teach. Usually teaching is what gets you paid, right? So, and in Harvard, they had enough money that if you got your PhD, got into a PhD program, you wouldn't TA. So Harvard, what they would do is they would hire grad students from Brandeis or Boston University, from like the neighboring universities, to TA their classes, but they wouldn't hire their Harvard folks because their Harvard folks were too good, right? They didn't need to. But it turns out Harvard had a problem getting jobs after a while because people wanted to see that you had teaching experience. So you had all these people who graduated from Harvard, they're like, I graduated from Harvard, but they had no teaching experience, and they ended up having getting a hard time getting jobs. And so that has changed. There has been, I
don't know. The message was light on details.
You know.
No explanations as usual. Clyde, he was a blustery old cuss. Carried on about violent revolution and seizing the means of production.
B. Wright says, mine was testing strategies for real-time systems. Some of the work was held up for 18 months because the university did not agree to find a 16 kilobyte memory module for a small computer. Oh my gosh. Yeah, like sometimes like weird things can hang you up. Like weird things can hang you up sometimes. Sometimes And also sometimes the writing's not there. Like I've known people, like I've not known a lot of people, but I've known people who actually just, who couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. Astral Tide says, yeah, that's tough, as someone else may surpass their research. Yep, that's the other one too. Astral Tide, that has also happened. Sometimes people just have taken so long that somebody else has surpassed their research, and then everything is like, it's done. So that's tricky. That's tricky. Or they cheat and get caught, like the brain professor, like the brain researcher was the scandal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. By the way, Harvard Law isn't the greatest law school. It's just one of the biggest. That's why you hear some, yeah, that's, yeah. He must have some enemies?
Clyde wasn't an idiot. He kept his head down,
all right,
hard, did as he was told. You're not going to catch him standing on a soapbox decrying the tyranny of the board. But when the Mardettes had their backs, oh yeah, he carried on about starting a revolution. Said he was going to do something big.
All right, well, let's talk about something else.
Yeah, boss?
That's it. Yeah, also, like, I'll tell you what, I am glad that I'm not in the... There are a lot of things with the sciences that I was like, oof, that's rough. Hey, Parvati, I wanted to chat with you. Oop, that's not chatting, that's jumping. Nope, I didn't, no, I just want to chat with you. How are you?
Something busted, Captain?
No. So here, let's talk about some other things that happened. This was like a big, so I was in a group. Ooh, bathroom. I was in a group with a bunch of different grad students when I was a grad student, not just like in my field, but like there was like it was like a kind of like a writing group, you know, it was like a writing support group is what it was. It was like therapy for people going through PhDs in the writing process. And there were a bunch of us, and we were working on our PhDs, we were writing, et cetera, et cetera.
Hold on. What happens if we hit the wall?
And
for C2.
no, it's good. So I was hanging out with these some of these scientists, and one of these scientists that I was hanging out with was like kind of long in their PhD. Like I kind of figured they should have been done already, because like they were still like they were doing it like, you know. And I was like, what's up? And they told me the most horrific thing that I was like, they were working in a lab with their advisor, and they needed their advisor to sign off on their thesis so they could graduate, but the advisor wouldn't sign off on it because the advisor wanted to keep them working in the lab, because they were working in the lab for the advisor. They were like doing the advisor's like research and all that kind of stuff, right? They were like working for the advisor. And if they graduated, they would leave and go somewhere else. And so the advisor just didn't sign off on their thesis for like 2 or 3 years. So here they were done with their project. They wanted to graduate, but their advisor just wouldn't let them. I think in the end, they made a lie. I think they lied. They did some kind of a lie that basically kind of forced the advisor to sign off on the thesis. Something like their mom was sick and they had to go back home. And so could you sign it? It was like some kind of a thing to like basically get the paperwork signed so they could actually get a job and graduate. But like that person could have just been demoralized and left. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like there are all sorts of reasons why people may not, yeah, it is unfair why they may not get their PhD, right? Wizard says, I'm getting my bioinformatics PhD with mostly negative results. That's interesting. I think there's a lot more acceptance of that now. Oh, that's interesting. But there's still science PhDs that just end up taking 2 or more years extra because the results aren't there, yeah. They still usually only fail if the PhD student quits, but it can be really long. Oh yeah, they had everything done. How could they have not sued the school over that? If they sue the school, they're not going to get they're not going to get. Here's the problem: suing your school is not going to get you what you want. That's the problem, because today is the happy-go-lucky stream.
Something on your mind?
No, we're good. The problem with suing your school, or suing if you don't get tenure, is
Hey, Cap.
academia is a very small field. Very small field. Like, maybe 5 jobs come up a year in my field. Sometimes there's like 20, right? But over 100 people get their PhD every year, like internationally, right, in my field. And there are maybe 20, 25 jobs. Maybe now now with pandemic, everybody's in a hiring freeze, so there are almost no jobs. And everybody, like my field, musicology is small. Everybody knows each other. If you sue your university, who is going to write you a letter of recommendation? Let me ask you that question. And
welcome back, Captain. How can I be of assistance?
it will be a real problem for you to get a job.
Goodbye.
If you sue your university. Like that's not gonna be great for you. The real bad guys of society we made all along. Their labor, their work, their education was being held hostage by a... Yes, it was. Generally speaking, you'd talk to other PhD committers on your graduate school about that, but then again, those people and your main supervisor all know each other. And the problem is that, hey, I think I'm still hanging out on Scylla, right? Like I'm here, right? And I think I have to still go here, right? That's true, right? Is that true? Yes, because I have to go to Harlow's base. I believe that's the case. And one of the other problems in the sciences, very often, like that's such a weird relationship in the sciences because the person who runs the lab and you are so tight. It's a little bit different than in other fields, but like there can be some abuse that happens in that way. We're not going to take Vicar Max, but we are going to take Felix because they are, that's what it is. That's what we're going to do. A factor I didn't mention was that I was so disillusioned with the cutthroat politics in that part of the academia I was in. They make politicians like amateurs, yeah. Not so much my immediate department, but cross. Well, that's another thing too, right? That's also another thing that like academia is a lot of things. It's a lot of things, right? There's a lot that goes into academia. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And some of it is hard. Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, but I will say I've known people who actually, who got let go. I've known people who, I mean, I also, admittedly, I also went to UCLA, which is a huge, massive school. So, you know, you see it. And I actually have a friend of mine who's working there now and in grad division, and like, it does happen. We have not been here, right? Or maybe we have been here and we don't even need to be here anymore. Maybe, yeah. So let's see. Main quest is Byzantium. This is report to Dr. Dorset. Groundbreaker. Meet Harlow. Travel to his landing pad on Scylla and have a chat with him. Oh yeah, okay. So we're in the right place. We didn't mess up. We okay, we're good. And all that's Byzantium. Monarch, so we could probably go back to Monarch. I feel like, okay, so we just, I don't mean to point a gun at you. So we just need to find this guy Harlow, and then I think we're good on this planet. I think, let's see if we can find this person. I feel like it's telling us that we, hey, vending machine, how you doing? I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to the journal, and I'm going to do that so at least we can see it on the map. Great. Now I know where we're going. We're good. Yeah, it's, I think,
Now there's a proper encampment.
Clyde must be inside.
Oh, all right. Well, we're gonna go here and see what happens. Yeah, I think, and the thing is, I think that people, you know what I would say? It's an interesting thing because I was sort of talking about this as well, right, with somebody else. I imagine there must be a whole hierarchy of politics and agendas in the deep. Oh, yeah, there's a lot. It's interesting.
Hey, you.
Yeah,
Looking for something?
I am. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of politics that are complicated. Yeah, but we only sit and read all the books all the day, and reading is a pastime, and that was kind of what I had to listen to from my uncle who didn't even manage to run a bar.
Where do you think you're going?
Felix Millstone's with me. Clyde Harlow's expecting us.
Yeah. The captain said we might be getting a new recruit. That you then?
Sounds like Clyde's jumping
Yeah?
to conclusions, but yeah. I'm Felix.
Yes?
You're on a first-name basis with Captain Harlow, huh? All right, go on through.
That was easy. Sweet. I didn't even have to intimidate him or anything. I just lied. That's cool. I've made a new PC, by the way. We're going to go around before we go in because I want to see what everybody has to say. Like, never go the direct route. Let's just go around.
Got my sights.
Yeah, so I was talking like writing is hard. Like, it is hard to...
Nothing to do but stand around and watch the stars go.
Writing is hard. Would this be stealing? It would not be stealing. So I'm just going to take it. Yeah, and academic writing is hard. There's a lot to go into it, and it's like a long process that can be like emotionally draining and also demoralizing. It can be very difficult for a lot of different reasons, depending on what your field is.
Nothing to do but stand
Yeah.
around and the stars go by.
I also, and then of course, once you get the PhD, if you actually go into academia, there's a whole other set of difficulties, and that's like, first off, you'd have to get a job, which you might not. Like, there's that. But then when you get the job, you have to deal with a bunch of other difficulties, which might mean that, I mean, because here's the thing, right? That if you get a tenure track job, which you may well not, because the universities are neoliberalism is getting rid of tenure, basically. Like, universities are trying to get rid of tenure really badly. Like, they want to dump it. They would like to replace tenure track faculty with adjuncts, because adjuncts get paid $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 per class. And so rather than hiring somebody who you have to pay like an actual full-time salary and benefits, instead of doing that, you can just hire somebody on an adjunct basis and hire them for, like, you know, $16,000 a year with no benefits. Like, yeah, like, you could just do that. That's what you could do. Writing proper essays is a fine art that is not for everyone. That is true. Especially if there's, like, maybe you have to do, and also, like, I don't have to do this myself because this is not my field. I'm not an ethnomusicologist, but my ethnomusicologist friends, like, they go into, like, or my anthropologist friends, they go in the field, right? They have to go to Tajikistan or Uzbekistan, and they have to, like, live in this other place for a while and do all that kind of research, which itself is a bunch of, like, that can also be very difficult. Yeah. Anyway. Hello. I don't want my gun out. I just want to say hi to everybody. Hi, everyone. How are you all doing? Here. What's up? Hey, Outlaw.
The board comes after us. We'll be ready.
Oh, okay. I mean, my dad was reading one page of a Kant book, looked at me, then back on the book, and he said, "You understand this?" He didn't. Yeah. Our historians have to travel to yeah, I mean, so there's, like, a lot of, like, and actually archival work can be very, like, it's just not as easy as one would think. And sometimes it's just too much. Physically, it can also be physically demanding if you're not on top of things. It can just be a lot, just saying. And then, let's say you happen to get one of these ever-dwindling tenure track jobs. If you don't make tenure in 6 years, you get fired, and then that's no good.
Well, hey there, Hullhead.
Hey.
Clawed your way out of the groundbreaker at long last?
Uh-huh. Oh, sorry, were you expecting me to say something? Maybe a long time no see, or a you've aged, old man?
That's interesting to hear. As bad as it is in Germany, most of Europe in general, as far as I know, professors are fine. Levels below have been gutted completely, though. It's mostly just postdocs and the short-term contracts now. Yeah. RB has my favorite essay style and content. Ooh. Yeah, it's tricky, right? Like, there are positives and negatives between Europe and the US. Some things are better in the US, some things are worse. For example, I could never get a job in Europe. Maybe the UK, maybe it's questionable. Mostly because basically Europe is just more conservative in terms of its intellectual traditions, especially in the humanities. Like, I do popular music studies, including German popular music studies, by the way, but I could never get a job in Germany. Maybe now, almost 20 years later, maybe I could get a job doing popular music studies in Germany. It's questionable, but Germany was just like a lot of Europe is just very conservative in their academic approaches, and so the kind of stuff that I do, I just would never get a job there. It just wouldn't happen. Maybe now it might be possible. It's questionable. Like, let me put it this way. I was doing more work on German popular music than musicologists in Germany were doing. German musicologists in Germany were doing. Like, sometimes, like, now there's more. Like, there's actually some stuff that's happening now in the last, like, 5 or so years, 5-10 years. So it's like, it's better than it used to be, but well, this is awkward.
So, you took Felix under your wing. Kept him busy. Good. Kid always needed a place to belong.
He kicks things what need kicking. They look the other way when he starts talking anti-corporate. It's a good arrangement.
Hear that, Clyde? I've been making something out of
Aw.
myself.
So long as you haven't been making a fool of yourself.
He's not. He's cool.
I'm sure Felix has no end of stories to tell of your exploits together. I look forward to catching up with the boy.
All right. Well, Felix had plenty to say about you, I'm going to say. At a 3-week class to learn to read old handwriting, and my exams group was so lucky that the people who complained about the ladies of the night around the town hall of Copenhagen. Yeah. And the thing, I mean, it's just that, like, and it's, so it's just one of those things where the kind of work I do would not, like, I could probably, I mean, I could barely do the work I do in the United States, but yeah, I studied social sciences before dropping out and coming back to study biology. Anything too popular and not part of the established fields was often relegated to guest lectures with no implement. Yeah, basically that's right. So Europe is just a little bit more conservative, and the United States is still conservative as well, but at least I was able to get a job here. So I know a bunch of people who are Europeans who do more popular things that end up coming to the United States to get jobs. So there's something that's pretty decent about that, but yet still.
I imagine he has. I was a mentor to the boy during his formative
But
years.
still.
You might say I have an elder brotherly interest in his development.
Cool.
Oh, it would have been nice to know that sometime in the last, hang on, doing some math. Half a decade?
5
I'm
years.
working on something. Something big. Something the likes of which Halcyon has never seen. And I want Felix to be a part of my initiative.
Oh.
I'm fulfilling a promise I made to the boy.
Oh.
One day, he and I would change the colony together. That day has finally arrived.
Oh.
Easy there, Clyde. No one said nothing about throwing in with you.
Hmm.
In case you didn't notice, I'm pretty happy where I am.
Oh.
I'm not asking you to walk away from your captain, Felix. But neither should you allow yourself to be controlled by fear. Change is not to be feared.
Okay.
I brought you here because I want to know where Felix's loyalties lie.
What does that
When
mean?
the day of our revolution comes,
Okay.
I want to know that I can rely on him.
Okay. I'm gonna say you want to put him through a test. I assume that this is where we're going here, right?
Everyone in my crew proves their loyalty. No exceptions. Not even Felix. I want you to deal with a traitor for me. Name's Trask. Kill him, and bring me proof of his death. His ring should do nicely.
What did this Trask do to deserve death?
Ratted us out to the board. He's been an informant. Has been for years. When he realized I was onto him, he and his little cadre mutinied. Killed 5 of my own and tucked tail. I don't know where he's hiding, but his wife might. Rosanna. Lives on the Groundbreaker last I checked.
Oh.
Rosanna knows my crew by name and face, but you're a stranger to her. She'll talk to you.
There's more to this than you're letting on.
You think so? Maybe we should have a word with Trask. Get his side of the story first.
You'd be wasting your breath bandying words with that traitor. But if it makes you feel better, by all means. Remember, I want proof. Bring me his ring. I don't care if the hand's still attached. Here, my token. Think of this as my personal signature. Anyone who knows me by my works will know me by this token.
Okay. Well, I have some questions, but how well do you know Felix?
Well enough. It's been a few years, but I still remember a thing or two. You had a chip on your shoulder. You'd argue over anything, and you'd never back down.
What do you mean, had? And for the record, you never could admit when you lost an argument.
You
Fair.
see what I had to deal with?
There's something I'd like to ask you. I don't know if there is, but I'll see.
Hear it.
Oh, yeah. You said you were working on something big. What is it?
Revolution is the work of a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent my life preparing for the day of Halcyon's reckoning. Everything you see around you is the result of that preparation.
Okay.
Base of operations, loyal soldiers, freedom from the board's oversight.
Cool. It sounds like you've got some plan to overthrow the board?
Hardly.
Oh.
The board is rotting from the inside. Tomorrow, next year, a generation from now, eventually the board will fall to pieces.
So,
Entropy is the natural state of the universe, Captain. All systems inevitably dissolve. When that day comes to Halcyon, we will be ready.
okay. Doesn't sound like a revolution, but yeah, that sounds really awesome, Ice Bunny, that you would go and like do some lectures for the elderly in care homes. I just want to go and talk to this lawyer so I can make sure I can do another music history stream in June, which will be, by the way, I'm gonna have to move July 1st, just so you know. Y'all, can I bring up a topic of conversation? It's not a big topic. I need to bounce something off of y'all, because, you know, I want your thoughts, everybody. I need to bounce something off of y'all. So, I am here in New York for 1 year doing this fellowship, and I got my application form in to take my sabbatical. Every 6 or so years, you get... please do not try to do all moving. I will not. Bounce away. Okay. Hey, Sinful Desires, how are you? I'm asking for advice. So, every 6 years you get a sabbatical, 1 semester, which you're supposed to use to do research. And I was supposed to take my sabbatical a long time ago, 2016. 2016. Is that when I got tenure? I think I got tenure in 2016. I think that's true. Which meant that I should have taken it in 2016, but immediately after I got tenure, they made me the director of graduate studies, which is a 3-year job. And you really, like, I was not going to take my sabbatical while I was the director of graduate studies, because what that means is if you take your sabbatical when you're not supposed to be, we're supposed to be researching and not doing other stuff, but you're director of graduate studies, all you do is just still work. Like they just continue to make you work. So I was like, I will wait. So I pushed off 3 years so that I could, right? So I could take the sabbatical when I was not working. And so I could actually take the sabbatical. And then I had to push it off for another year for some reason, because I think they needed me to do something else for them. And so then this year I got this fellowship, which means I'm not taking my sabbatical, which means next year I have to take it or else I'll lose it. Because if you don't take it, you'll lose it. So I applied for my sabbatical for next fall, which will be coming up. So I'm here in New York for 1 year on this research leave, and next semester I'm not teaching, so it's just me writing. I'm really excited about it. The apartment that I'm in right now is a year-long lease. It ends July the 6th, and I asked if I could go month to month, and they said no. I think it's because this is a college town, and I think they only basically... It was really hard for me to get a lease that started in July even, because I think basically everything opens up in August. Everything is basically on the academic school year here in this town. And so they don't do month to month because they want everything is like basically academic years. So I cannot stay in this apartment in the fall because I have to leave. So the question that I have is, I have sabbatical. Well, I haven't been approved yet, so I don't know if I'll be approved or not, but I should be approved because I actually did earn the sabbatical, and there really should be no reason why I shouldn't have it. And my department chair supported it, so I should get it. Anyway, so I'm going to have to move July 1st, right? I'm going to have to have a new place to live July 1st. No, just 1 semester. We only get 1 semester. How bad do they want you back? They really, let me tell you this. If they do not give me my sabbatical, which I have earned, and I have basically taken no breaks in, 2020? Basically in 10 years. I've been working without a break for basically 10 years, right? So if they do not support me on this one, I will look for a new job. That's how that goes. This is because here's the thing, if I don't take it next year, I'm going to lose it. And the only reason why I've not taken it so far is because I've been putting it off because I was working for them and doing service, and a lot of service. So if they don't give me my sabbatical and I lose my sabbatical, which I haven't taken because I was doing extra work for them, I will look for a new job. That's what will happen. I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna get my book finished and then I'll look for a new job, because you do not stay with people who screw you over in that way. That's not a thing you do. Do you take tenure with you? It depends. Not necessarily. That's why a lot of people don't actually leave. Like that's why universities for the longest time used why they have tenure. Well, tenure for a bunch of reasons, right? There's a bunch of reasons why there's tenure, but one of them is that if they give you tenure, you're much less likely to leave the university, and then they don't have to actually give you raises anymore, really, right? Because you have tenure, so you won't necessarily leave. And do you leave? Basically, I wouldn't leave unless I could leave and get tenure where I'm going. But you basically have to make the case in the new job that you deserve tenure, and they may not give it to you. So I would never go to a place I would never go to a place and not be given tenure, which is why I need to get 1.5 books done. 1 to 2 books done is what I need to do if I really want to get a really good. If I wanted to move, which I don't necessarily do, but if I wanted to move, I would really need to have a bit more. Like I've got a good reputation, I've got a good profile, but I want to get the book done and like the second one basically finished, and then I could probably go anywhere I wanted, which I may not want to do. But the point is that if I did want to, I could, and then I would be able to go to a new place with tenure. But here's the thing, and this is the thing this is the question that I have. I have to move somewhere new July 1st. Oh gosh, I have 2 questions. I have 2 questions for you. I want your advice. Okay. Having more published works makes you more desirable. Yeah, that's what it is. So here are my 2 questions. Question 1. So I have to move July 1st, right? If I get my sabbatical leave, I will be back to teaching in the spring, right? So I'll be back full time up at my university in the spring. So I have 2 questions. 1, when I move July 1st, do I go somewhere random that is not where my work is and just spend the semester somewhere random for a semester, live someplace that is not where my work is, which on the plus side would mean that they can't get me for service because I won't be there. But on the minus side would mean that I would move to a place and then 6 months later have to move again, which I don't know how I feel about that. Or July 1st, do I just move back to the Boston area and find a place where I can, so I just have to move that once and then I don't have to move again? If I move back to, well, if your current university is stupid, I hope you find something on this coast. I hope they won't be stupid. But again, it's just really hard. Spending your free time moving is a bad use of free time. I feel like that's fair, Paladin Hulk. Okay, so we answered the first part of the question. That's more stress, not less. I think you're right. So part 1 answered. Part 1 is answered. So here's part 2. Part 2 is, and this goes back to Vulpus's question. And this is yeah, I think you're all right about moving less. I think that's a good point. So I'll move back to the Boston area. So I don't move twice in 6 months, because I think that's not fun. Okay, so now I need to ask you the big question, and this is a really hard one that I don't have a good answer for, and I thought you could give me some feedback. Oh wow, you're in a serious room when the guy's wearing a Henley shirt. Henley shirt, that's right. Also, it's kind of cold out, I'm still here, I'm just listening. I have to concentrate to get answers. Oh, that's fair. I'd help you move. I have all this vacation time and nothing real to use it on. We're going to be in the same area. So here's my second question. This is a bigger question, and I don't know the answer to this one. What do we do? By the way, you're a band of outlaws living on the edge of an asteroid. Some revolution. Sure, we'll say that.
Revolutions involve bloodshed and fire, Captain.
Sure.
The purest act of rebellion is to live according to one's own means, independent of any masters.
All right.
One day, when the board is weak and halcyon vulnerable, we may claim a piece of this system for ourselves. Until then, we bide our time.
All right, sure. I have some questions, especially if you think it'll take generations. I don't know. All right, so here's the second question. And this is a hard question, and I really am torn on this one. I'm really torn, and I feel like you can give me some outside input.
It's almost as if the board's sphere of influence is shrinking.
If I'm still employed and travel as an option, I'd welcome the change of sphere to help you move.
Well armed and located on defensible terrain. If the board tries to lay siege to us, we'll make them pay.
Probably what I'll do is just hire movers to load things up on the U-Haul, then drive the U-Haul up, and then have them load them off. It's just practical that way.
Something on your mind?
Nope. Okay, so all right. So here's the big question. I have two options when it comes to moving back to the Boston area, and I need your advice on which option to take. I just say to myself, what would Martha Stewart say? Yeah, you know, that is probably a good case. All right, so here are the two options, and I don't know what I should do.
We had a good haul. No freighters, no jobs, no contracts and weeks. Just standing around kicking rocks.
I didn't want to shoot her.
If the board comes after us, we'll be ready.
Cool. Why is there blood here? Why is there a lot of blood on the floor? Anybody know why there's like, does that disturb anyone? There's like just a lot of blood? All right, well, worrisome. Or is killing, like maybe. All right, so here are the options. I have been asked, well, before I left, right, when I was like, hey, I'm leaving. So before I left, I really should dial OSHA, right? Like maybe it's space rat blood, maybe. I'm a little worried. So before I left, I was working, you know, as professor, but I also worked as a scholar in residence where I lived in the dorms, and I, you know, did programs like with the students. So I lived in the dorms with the students, and I would do programs with them. I did a weekly board game night. Every week I would do board games, and people who wanted to play board games, like usually like and not go out partying, would come and have board game night, which was really good. And then I would do like also monthly programs. In addition to that, I would do something like, like talks or just various things, right? So I did that. I lived on campus and I did that. Sposha. At this point, depending on how the elder I take care of is doing, I'll come for the moving party. I have done the drive to upstate New York before. Martha, eating donuts is a good thing. I think that's true. Is this your thesis story on nihilism? Right. So living in the dorms and the people, when I left, they were like, when you come back, we would love to have you come back and live in the dorms again. I'm getting there, right? So they would say, we would love to have you come back and live in the dorms again. So option one is to move back into the dorms. Option two is to not come back and move into the dorms, right? So I could either move back in the dorms, or I could get an apartment off campus. And here are the pluses and minuses. Dorms are loud, sure. They are also, I mean, I have to work. Like I have to do game nights once a week. I have to do a program every month, go to meetings. Also, because I live on campus, that does mean certain things. And one of the things that it means is that people assume since I live on campus, I can always go to everything, right? So like some of my colleagues do not live in Massachusetts. Some of my colleagues live in New Hampshire or Rhode Island. And so when there's like a concert in the evening or some kind of thing that happens in the evening, they're like, oh, I can't make it because I'm married with kids and I live in New Hampshire. But you, trooper, are single and live on campus. You surely can come to this thing, which means there's like an expectation for me to come to all of the things or many more of the things than some of my colleagues do. Also, people, I'm a little bit easier to find, and so there's a lot more that happens in that space. Sounds like curfew would be a problem. I don't know if you have curfews in some places I've been to. Oh, I'm an adult, so it doesn't bother me either. Do you have the extra money to not live in the dorms? Is the money you save by living in the dorms what lets you pay cash for the streams? So, right, so here's the thing, right? But living in the dorms means I don't pay rent. That's the thing, right? When I live in the dorms, I don't pay rent. I also get like 80 free meals a semester. So like basically a free meal a day. And rent in the Boston area is really expensive. It is really expensive. It's really expensive. And if you find a place that's not super expensive, it's probably quite far away, which means I would have to buy a car, which I do not currently own. And it would still be really expensive. It's like, so like I'm basically torn between living on campus, which would involve some things. So you're telling me you need to work on your boundaries. PH, this is where there are other things that come in play that are a little bit tricky. Like they're yes and no. Yes, PH, the answer is yes, but also no. Yes and no. Yes and no. Just do what makes you happy and keep balance. Yeah. I mean, rent in the Boston Metro is atrocious. It's really bad. Like, and I grew up in San Francisco, right? Like, I can save a lot. I mean, yeah. And the thing is, a lot of places are like $2,000 now, especially if you want to go anywhere near the Red Line. Like, if you want to be like on public transportation, all of a sudden it's like $2,000 a month. Like, that is so much, and that's not even considering like utilities and all of that, right? There's an ADHD person who has a quote you should take to heart: protect your yes. I don't think I'll be able to give you an answer, to be honest. I've never lived in a high rent cost area, even when I went to college. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably even more given the way the market's been. Yeah, yes, and it's yeah, right. It's one of those things where like probably getting a mortgage would be cheaper. Like it would be cheaper to buy a house. Like the mortgage for a house would be cheaper than the rent. It's just that who can buy a house? Like that's just who can buy a house? Sounds like dorms is a bit annoying, but much cheaper, right? Yeah, right. That's it, right? The dorms are cheaper. Yeah, your house is $600 a month. Yeah, it's hey J-Rab. Right now, I'm asking whether or not I should move back on campus when I move back to the Boston area, or whether I should live off campus, and that is a really hard question. Yeah, it's just the down payment. Yeah, it's the down. Well, actually, J-Rab, it's not just the down payment in the Boston area. Unfortunately, if it were just the down payment, I would be fine, because as a veteran, I can use the VA home loan, which would take care of the down payment. The problem is that the market in the Boston area is so bad that even if like I have been told that like even though I have the VA home loan, which would pay for that down payment, people are walking in with cash. They're like, I'll give you $100,000 cash. Like people are walking in the Boston housing market with just like $100,000 cash. And they're not going to take my little VA home loan when somebody's walking in with $100,000 cash for their down payment. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like apparently it's just like not good. Taxes as well. Yeah. I could buy a house, but the problem is getting into it. New Hampshire rent is pretty awful as well. Oh, yeah. What you need to do is start carrying around a planner. When someone insists on you can do something you don't want to do, open the empty planner, pause for a bit, and say, "Oh, sorry, I'm booked." Yeah. And you know, says me and my partner 8 offers before we got one accepted. People are paying cash and 20+% over the asking price. Yeah. See, Anino knows how bad the market is. Like when we had that housing downturn, didn't really hit Boston. Here in SoCal, typical studio goes for $1K. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, to $1,200. Yeah, no, I'm looking like $2,000 for like a 1 bedroom in many places around here. Let's see. Independent freighter, Cat's Meow, haul, contraband pharmaceuticals, summary, brought down, salvage cargo, ransomed crew. Independent freighter, getaway sticks, haul, subversive literature, brought down, salvage cargo, crew joined up. Interesting. Freighter Werewolf, engine parts brought down, salvaged cargo, crew jettisoned an escape pod. As usual, we were able to intercept 3 these ships despite how cleverly they masked their heat signatures. Our patron pulled through again with that tracking data. Don't know how they get their hands on it, but we're in no position to refuse charity. That seems a little sketch, right? Does that seem sketch to you all? That seems sketch to me. Yeah, rich people have too much money right now, and housing is a good investment. It has been a super shitty time to buy a house for like my entire lifetime. Now, but especially post 2000, yeah. Sinful says, God, I legit can only imagine I live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $600, but I legit live in the middle of nowhere and I sell 2 houses. Yeah, like I couldn't. So Sinful, I grew up in San Francisco, then I was in the Army, and then I did my grad work in LA, and now I'm in the Boston area. I'm in New York, but. And $600, I don't think that would even pay for parking. Like, I think that like a parking permit at UCLA was more than $600, like not a month, right? But I mean, like it's like I'm pretty sure that there are places in San Francisco that you would pay more than $600 a month just for a parking spot because there's no parking in San Francisco. Like I'm just saying. It's not just for people that are driving at the market here. There's a lot of foreign money coming in, buying real estate. That's true. Yeah. They're converting them to Airbnbs. That is also true. Or just renting them out at exorbitant prices. Yeah, that is true. Boston expensive, like I would die. I would be so poor. Yeah, I just like, I don't know. J-Rep says, you have to think also homeowners want to sell to a personality also. If you get the realtor, you can have someone go to bat for you and they can, oh, maybe. Yeah. Maybe, J-Rab. Yeah. So I will, there's one other thing to sort of like throw in there. One more, that's true, Jay. I rent houses, so that's true. I think what's tricky, I mean, Sinful, I'm probably it's not probably the same where you're at, but there's a lot of people who are, there was a people who was actually kind of infamous for it, who are maybe not good landlords because they know that there are college students. And so they're like, oh, we can just jack up the prices for college students. They'll pay for it. They'll just like have 5 people live in this one room. And if the situation is bad, it won't be a big deal because they're going to leave anyway. So like some people come in and they kind of like exploit college students that way, which also drives up some of the housing costs. Stacey and I were talking about buying something before the redundancy news, and all the reasonable price stuff around here is in the fire zone. Ugh, yeah. Yeah, no, we actually have yeah. Crew, I'm beginning to wonder about our patron. When we opened up our scanners and sniffed the system for our latest Wildcat, we picked up a signal from a corporate freighter nearby. It was hauling 10 times more cargo than our target. No sooner did we scan it than a message came through ordering us to go after the Wildcat instead. Something doesn't add up. Until I get answers, stay skeptical. Yeah, you should be skeptical. I feel like you clearly have some kind of weird corporate patron who's using you in a sketchy way. Come on. Oh, that's not good. But I do change the policy of college students by one of my houses, but I don't change the price. It does vary by state. Everything's by state here. There's been a lot of back and forth legislation. Yeah. J-Rab says, I have a personal friend who's a realtor, and it's so nice to have someone who's on your side who knows the market and has your interest in mind. Yeah, and I imagine if you have like a good realtor, maybe you can get something that is not outrageous. Let's see. Pirate code. Rule number 1, Harlow's the boss. Rule number 2, fuck the board. Rule number 3, why are you still reading, pig? Wake up! If you're seeing this, the board already owns you. You went looking for the rules. Why? Because life's a game to you? Maybe you like being played. You guzzle down that sense of security like it's purple berry flavored opium. Fuck rules and fuck terminals. It's not a revolution if we're using the weapon they raised against us time and time again. From the front lines of the riots, the corporate sit-ins, and... Error. Document. Pirate's code has exceeded character limit. That makes me laugh. Yeah, we do the deep chats here because, like, you know, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the deep chats. I also think we're gonna leave now. I think we're done. I think we're out of here. We're outie 5,000, everybody. We're gonna go. Yes. You don't have to put them on payroll. They're going for the home sale. Yeah. Airbnb's nearly ruined the markup in a lot of neighborhoods in Boston. Yeah, it's true. The Airbnbers don't contribute as much to local businesses the same way residents do. It's also what I think is another thing I think is actually quite interesting about this is so where I'm at, politicians like to attack students as the reason why their rents are high, because students often don't vote locally, so they're like an easy scapegoat. But I was asking one of these, there's this thing they have in Boston that they did not have, at least when I was growing up in San Francisco. They have realtors for rentals. Like that was not really how we did it. Oh, I will see you, Astral Tides. It's been a pleasure learning in bits and pieces. Oh, thanks. Come in next time. We'll see you either Thursday for more The Long Dark, or maybe Saturday for the Outer Worlds. Monday, I'm going to be playing an RPG, Twilight 2000, over on Unmade Gaming, I think at like 1 o'clock. Krellin, that's a good question. Probably maybe like a half hour over, probably. All those students with their fat stacks of student loan money. So when is it? Somebody knows. It's in my calendar. My calendar is not up, but I will be playing Twilight 2000, which is in Kickstarter, so it's the new edition. So you can see a sneak peek of the new edition on, which I think it's 1 o'clock. I think it's 1 o'clock. That's what I think. And I remember thinking that because I feel like it's 1 o'clock, but I can tell you. Let me see. Come here. Stream schedule channel. Tell me what's up. About. There. All right, let's see. It is Twilight 2000. Will be 1 o'clock. I was right. 1 o'clock over on Unmade Gaming. It is, but I get to play. I think I did play like a half hour over, right? Because I started half hour late, so I get to.
To all crew members, there is only one toilet on the ship.
I need to put my gun away. Yeah, I feel like I feel like if I could get a house, I could afford to pay the mortgage, but... Oh, I was going to finish my thought. I need a gaming, but a lot of the good owners of the Airbnb that are super hosts generally are good for their local market. They use all the local goods. Oh, yeah. I've been addicted to PB's, Final Fantasy VI stream. Ooh, PB is so great. I have plans. I need to send some DMs because I've got some plans. Secret plans that maybe I will talk about. I need to send some emails first though. But before I can tell anybody any secret plans, I need to send some DMs. Let's see. This is going to be... We should probably go to the Groundbreaker, right? I feel like if we go to the Groundbreaker, we... Yes? Groundbreaker? Yeah, we'll just go to the Groundbreaker. We'll go to the Groundbreaker. It'll be fine. Right? We'll go to... Yeah, that's it. It's fine. I was going to finish my thought, but then I didn't. She's so expressive. Oh my gosh. She's amazing. She's so great. He said he was failing me when my transcript said I have an 8. Oh. What? Hold on. I missed that first part of that comment. So since you're a knowledgeable person, what's the best way to get over college PTSD? Okay. Basically, I did college in high school a while ago, and I ended up quitting because I just couldn't stand my professor because he would single, and it got as bad as me quitting. Yeah, okay. Yes. I would say a couple of things. One, therapy is always useful, though can be pricey. I would say, speaking of secret plans, I've started using those magic index cards. Ooh. I think what I would say is that recognizing that that person was not great, you were also young, which means you didn't have as much autonomy as you do at this moment. Who are we taking with us? I feel like we should probably take Parvati and Felix? Sure. I don't know if these are people we need to take, but that's who we're taking. And so I think that one of the things is remembering that going into college when you're not a high school student, when you have more autonomy, is very different, because you can just drop classes you don't want to take. You take the classes you want to take. There are more ways to figure out what things will be compatible for you. Like you have a drop period, right? Like if you're I think it's different than when you're a high school student. You can just not take that class. Do you know what I mean? Like just don't take it. So I think that having more autonomy and more agency will probably help with that. So that's what I would say. I would sort of recognize that you're in a different space than you were in terms of like your own personal power, and that the situation will be different. It will be a different situation for you. So that's what I would say. We have a lot of apartment owners who went into more debt than they could get for the apartment, and now they rent it out. I was going to say something. Have more autons and agents, then have them do your bidding. Yeah, that solves all the problems. No, I was talking about... Oh, yeah. I remember now. So I talked to one of these real estate agents, and I asked them about, rental prices, like why they're so expensive in the Boston area. And I said, everybody says that it's the fault of students who I don't think have that much money. So, what is your... the politicians are students, right? I would just sort of recognize that you just have a lot more power now in your life, and I think it'll be different because there's just a lot of things you're not gonna have to take. Do you know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of things you're like, I don't like that, I'm not gonna do it. And so you'll have just a lot more autonomy in space, which I think will make the experience a lot better for you. Also, I don't know if you are a traditional age student or not. Like if you'll be going in, like I don't know if you'll be going in at 18 or if you'll be going in at like 20 or 21 or 22, a non-18-year-old age. But if you are going in as a not traditional age student, I find that's also easier. Like I started college at 25 and it was way different. Like high school was the worst. It was real bad. But going in at like a 25-year-old into college, I was really much more settled in who I was as a person, and I just did a lot better in college because I don't know, I had a slightly different space. And I think you can also go into college and have that space too, but just sort of recognize that you're going to have your own, it's going to be different. It'll be a different vibe. Would have loved to drop and never looked at visual cultures class. So I'm looking to move to Russian, and instead of renting typically, long-term Airbnb actually turns out better for me and I get a bunch of extra perks. Oh, that's interesting. Thought, right, so I asked the realtor, is it really college students that are driving up all the prices? That seems weird to me since there have been college students in this area for over 100 years. Like it seems weird that like the huge uptick in the rental price be the cause of students since they've always been here. So like, what is your take on it? And the realtor told me that it wasn't, this person looks like Han Solo, that it wasn't students that were driving up the rental costs, that what was happening in the Boston area was a couple of things. Basically, one was that Cambridge got rid of rent control, which then started driving up the costs everywhere else, right? So like it basically sort of like that sort of started driving up costs, but also it's basically tech bros and medical tech bros. That basically the Boston area has got a bunch of young people who are in their 20s who have a lot of money because they work in tech and medicine, and they're just driving, like it's not actually students who are driving the costs, it's sort of like basically young tech people who are driving up costs. And I was like, oh well, but I imagine young tech people are not as easy to demonize as college students. High school was great for me, but I was not in my 20s when I did my high school exams. So I took emerging medical services. Oh, so I understood that the class was hard, just never understood why I got singled out when I wasn't doing the worst. Yeah, that sounds messed up. I will say that...
You mind? Trying to have a moment here.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Like, I think it'll just be a little bit easier. I think it'll be a little bit easier when you come at it with a little bit more autonomy, basically. I'm looking for a guy named Rufus Trask. I'm told he lived around here. Yeah.
Rufus and I are no longer on speaking terms. I don't know where he is. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Oh. I'm going to say I'm on the level. You can ask Junlei about me, because I don't know what her relationship is with this guy necessarily.
You're telling me you're on a first-name basis with Ms. Tennyson?
That persuade would sort of be I'm going to say repair the groundbreakers rate. I'm not going to use my persuade skill, even though I'm really good at it, because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, the promenade doesn't feel like I'm walking the surface of Tartarus. So that was you, huh?
It's me.
Rufus is hiding out in Emerald Vale. Got a few friends with him. That's as much as I know.
Okay. I've got a few more questions.
Please, just make it quick.
Sure. How much do you know about Harlow?
Precious little. He and Rufus worked together on the groundbreaker some years back before he vanished.
Huh.
A few years later, Rufus gets a message from an old friend. Something about starting a revolution, something about getting rich. Abandoned his work and ran off that very day.
You and Trask split up?
That's right. Our marriage contract expired some months ago.
Oh.
And seeing how he's technically an outlaw, I wouldn't renew even if I wanted to.
Interesting. You know, Harlow tells me that Trask betrayed him. Do you know anything about that?
Only that Rufus is in a bad way. He came to see me a little ways back. Said he had to go into hiding. Never asked why. He was here to collect his personals, complain about Harlow to me, and say goodbye. In that order.
He didn't tell you anything about Harlow?
No, and he was particular about that. Said I was better off not getting entangled in his mess. Little late for that, says I.
Well, that's all I wanted to know, so I'll leave you be.
Appreciate it. No offense meant.
No,
It's been a long day, is
It's cool. I like your, Han Solo look. It's working for you. Rock on. I do think we might have one other thing to do here, so let me see. Always use skills. It's the best way to get XP. I know, Vulpes, but like, what if it doesn't feel true to what I would say? I feel like, it just didn't feel true. Sithel says, in general, one should not demonize a class at all. It's a situation that needs to be handled with political means. That's what politics are for. It makes sense. Why waste time on people who are doing the worst? Sounds like misguided focus to force you to do better. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want it. Kind of makes me want to go straight to a university, which I already could have, but I didn't have the income to support myself in that area, so I declined. Okay, so Sinful, because I got that treatment in a community college, but I declined because they wanted me for a different sense. Okay, so we have some things to talk about. Sinful, we have some things to talk about. We have some things to talk about here. And it was the first time we were being smart and actually good at the things Ice Bunny I did was okay, and all the classes were all exams. J-Rep says, always look at the teachers who you will be taking class with. Most important part. I audited all my classes and vetted my teachers extensively. Yeah, so J-Rep has an important point, which yes, some Sinful and J-Rob. I want to say two things. So first off, so J-Rob, thank you, because I think I can go to 3:30. So let's see, Haberdashery, Cascadia. I feel like we go here, right? Yes, we see this person. So a lot of times when people think about colleges, this is like one of my sadnesses, let's call it a sadness, that a lot of times when people go thinking about colleges, the last thing they think about is the teaching. They don't think about the teaching very much. They think about like a lot of other things other than the teaching, but like that's important. So listen to JRAB. I would say, audit a class. Like, and the thing is, you can actually just sit in, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, probably not for a seminar, but for like a big lecture course. Like anybody can come and sit in my big lecture courses. I don't care. As long as there are enough seats, you can come and sit in. I don't care. Right. So like you can sit in and kind of get a sense of it. You can talk to your peers and see who've taken those classes and see what they think about it. What they think about the professor. Do that research and get a professor who works with you, and know that a professor may not work for some people, but may work for you, and just kind of get that sense. And then if you have the agency and can choose teachers in Denmark, you get the university studies for free, but you can. Oh yeah, no, that's another difference between the U.S. system. The U.S. system has a lot more choice in it than many of the other systems.
Were I a gambling woman, I'd wager you're responsible for my mechanical safe return.
It is true.
I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome. Well, great.
Keep hanging around
Thanks.
and I'll begin to think you're here for me.
Maybe.
What can I do for you?
Nothing.
You have yourself a day then.
So what I'm going to give you some advice, Sinful Desire, which you can ignore or not ignore, but I'll give you something to think about. It was advice that that's not what I want to do. I do not want to point a gun at him because that is rude.
What seems to be the problem?
No, I'm good.
Take care.
Oh, here's when you can choose where so that's good, because I know that in some places you don't have, some places give you less choice than others, so it depends. All right, so I think we just need to go to a new location. I think we're doing, by the way, I feel like we're doing really well. Byzantium, Emerald Vale, Byzantium, and Fallbrook Monarch. So Fallbrook Monarch and Emerald Vale, we can just clear that up. So I'm going to give you some advice, Sinful, which was advice that somebody gave to me. When I was looking at going to college, being a person who had no money, I had the GI Bill, but like, again, you know, it's not like I had a lot of money. I was looking at kind of like a, you know, state schools, that kind of stuff. Hard time affording it. There was stuff going on. And a friend of mine said, you should apply to very expensive schools. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, look, you should apply to like a really good liberal arts college or some other kind of like, you know, school with money, for two reasons. You will probably do better there in terms of the educational experience, like than going to a huge state school with like hundreds of people in the classroom. If I go to like a different school like that, I'll probably have like a better classroom to teacher, student to teacher ratio. I'd probably do better there. I'll probably have like better experience. And I was like, but I could never afford a really expensive school. And what she told me was a thing that I did not know because I did not grow up in this environment. She said, rich schools have more money. They can offer more fellowships. And I was like, what? And I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that rich schools had more money and would offer more fellowships. I just figured because they cost more, it would just cost more, and I would have to pay more.
Members Ellie or Felix. They're sharing a drink upstairs.
Oh, thanks. I'll go look.
So then I said,
Which means that
fine, I'll pay you back for all of it.
it often costs less.
Nice one. You must have had him quaking in their heels.
I mean, I wasn't really gonna do it. I just wanted to make him feel bad.
Pay you back with interest. I gotta remember that one.
Would have felt better if it had worked.
Hi, drunk people. J-Rep says, I used to be the only form of transportation for many of my friends and ended up taking many of them to their college classes and learned about auditing when I asked many of the professors if I could sit in while my friends took their classes. So that was a nice thing I learned when I was younger. Oh yeah, just sit in. Like most people are totally fine with that. Yeah. And the thing is, rich schools have more money, but it doesn't necessarily, you may not realize that translates to, right? Ice said, I think that would have been better, and also that the teachers have office hours where they help the students. We get 1 hour for help with the papers, and that was such a fail because my dyslexic brain never managed to read all, so I was basically fed because we were forced to make a list of texts we wanted to use in the exam paper, yeah. Yeah, Rich, like, I wish I'd known that in the 90s, right? Like, this was, like, again, information that I did not, right? No, you still have to compete with others for these spots here in Sweden, so if you're going for a popular school, you have to get good grades. Yeah, I mean, you have to, well, that's actually tricky. This is a tricky thing. Again, this is tricky because this was another one of the reasons why a friend of mine said I should apply for like really expensive schools. So I was going to apply to like UC Berkeley because that was local. I thought that'd be fine. I think I can probably just go. But so the thing you have to know is that I got a 2.8 GPA in high school, I think, 2.79, 2.8, like around a 2.8. It depended on whether or not you, there was like more than one way to calculate your GPA. So I got like a 2.8, and a 2.8 is like a C. 4 is an A, 3 is a B. So like I had like a C plus average in high school. Those are not good grades. Those are not college grades. Those are not grades that are going to get you places. They will not get you places, right? Like those are what we would call bad grades. I want to go to Terra 2. Is that correct? Is that correct? I want to go to Terra 2. Is that right? The City and the Stars. I don't know if that's right. I want to make sure I'm going to the right place. No, I don't want to go to Terra 2. I want to go to here. Fallbrook and Cascadia. That's where I want to go. Terra 2 is so old school. Terra 3 is where it's at. That's right. That's right. Are C bad? I thought that... No, C's are bad. C's are bad. Like, I mean, they're not D's, which are really bad, but C's are not good. C's are not college grades. Like, if you want to go to college, right? C's are not going to get you... C's are not going to get you into a good college. C is... It's passing. Technically, I think D is passing, but you know what I mean? Like, it's... let's see. Oh, I've got... let's go to Fallbrook. It's passing. It's not good. I got all good grades in high school, but my GPA is low. because I was super sickly throughout high school. I was in and out of the hospital a lot during the 2 years. Oh, yeah, that's terrible. Remembering that, of course, the American C is a lot higher than a European C. Yes, that is true. Yeah, I got bad grades in high school. That is just the truth. I got grades that were not going to get me to a good college. But I wasn't planning on going to a good college anyway. So, yeah, I think you can get. I'm here, so I need Nyoka with me, and I think I'll take Ellie. Felix, right? Yeah. So when I applied to UC Berkeley, I actually wasn't qualified to go to UC Berkeley, mainly because you have to take 3 years of math, right? So to get into the UC system, you should take 3 years of math in high school. And I did take 3 years of math in high school because no idea what a C is here. They win the ABC system recently. Oh. I always got really good test grades. Who's your favorite character to banter between one another in this game? I don't know yet. Some classes give you an E if you failed but tried your best. Oh, huh. Say military service fixes a pretty... Boom, For Lo Santo. There you go. Hey, Vio. So basically For Lo Santo, this is what it's about, right? So I had... you have to take... So I took 3 years of math in high school, which is what you need to go to the UC system. However, as it turns out, they did not count... I took pre-algebra, algebra, and then geometry, and they did not count pre-algebra as a math class. So this UC system basically said that I only did 2 years of math. So I was not qualified, and because it was a large state school, they really did not care about anything I'd done after high school, which was 7 years earlier. So I was not going to get into the cheap UCs, and I was like, well, I suppose I just can't go to college. And my buddy was like, no, apply to an expensive liberal arts school or an expensive college. They have more money so you can afford it, and also they look at your applications more carefully because they're not looking at 20,000 applicants. They are a bit more personalized. So I applied to a small just a note, right? When I was looking at UC Berkeley, they only wanted letters of recommendation from your high school teachers. And that was 7 years early for me. And I'd done so much since then. I'd been in the Army, and I did really well in the Army academically. I had people who could write letters of recommendation for me, who were people who were my employers, that I worked with as a teacher. I had a bunch of I did a bunch of stuff after high school. But the big state schools did not have any space to talk about those things in their application process because that's not what they were doing. And you do actually get a 3.5. You do. At least where I was at school, it did matter. It's one of the reasons why people could get because yes, yeah. So you didn't, but there are these weighted systems that do make a difference, which is why it gets a little bit weird sometimes with some schools. Yeah, we're giving some advice. So Sinful, I applied to this small liberal arts college that had money, and all of a sudden they were interested in the things I did after high school. They were interested in my military record. They were interested in I could use letters of recommendation from people after high school. And they had a lot more money. And so it was cheaper to go to the more expensive private school than it would have been to UC Berkeley.
Oh, it's easy. See, the six back protects the fourth back from the eighth back. You want to think of the six back as your 12th line of defense, yeah? Unless, and this is important, the game's in the third half. In that case, a good six back knows how to pivot toward defense in case the other team runs the field.
I'm even more confused now. I'm just gonna turn my brain off and try to enjoy it.
Also the slogan of the Anti-Cleo Darlings.
All right. No, that just because the grades at NU was pass-fail did not make it easier. 60% of students in my class Like of 60 students in my class, only 4 passed and got a bachelor. You're one of them. Oh, congratulations, Sithel. Yeah, no, pass-fail is not necessarily easier at all. And actually, I believe, at least in my university and most universities I've been at, pass-fail is actually harder because technically a D is passing if you get letter grades, but if you do pass-fail, I believe you need a C or up in order to pass, whereas with letter grades, a D would still pass. It's just not a good grade. In other words, Trooper did better at assessment. It was less arbitrary. But that was a bit of a scandal, I'll admit. It should not be that hard. Yeah, I agree. Sinful says, I mean, to be honest, I didn't do too much. Yes, I'm a landlord and I own a fire business, but that's about it. Nothing super actively. But that doesn't matter. If you're a landlord and you own a fire business, that has shown that you have done things, you know what I mean, with your life. And those things in like schools that pay more attention to detail of who you are as a human being, those things will matter to them. Not that GPA mattered that much. I grew up in a household where anything less than an A was a failure. Ooh, I'm so sorry, Kron. My parents would tell you that they never expected that, but while they never did explicitly, they did implicitly. A firewood business. Oh, again, I think that these things, you'd be surprised at the ways in which things like this can make a difference, right? Like once you get to a space that, let's fast travel there, that might pay attention to those things. Also, like, for example, my school, my program, we accepted as a master's student a fellow who didn't necessarily have the best grades as an undergraduate and wasn't even a music major as an undergraduate, but like played the piano, was really interested, and worked full-time in a trucking business. He was like a trucker. His father owned the trucking business and he was like basically managing it. So he would have to drive, but also manage like he would do snow plowing is what he would do. He would like do like snow plowing and that kind of stuff. And, you know, we accepted him because we thought that like he was really interesting and he, you know, so when you have a bit more space to be specific, it can often be a better experience. I will also note that, so I want to head south, east, south. I want to head this way, it looks like. I wonder if I can just head this way through the woods? I don't know. I was also going to say that here's an example. Davidson is a school in North Carolina. I think it's North Carolina. And Davidson will fully fund you if you get accepted. Like if you get into Davidson, you will be debt free. Well, they will fully fund you, which means you'll probably get some combination of scholarships or, you know, whatever it is, but you will, like, you're not going to, basically you will get out of there without having to take student loans. You'll get whatever fellowships and whatever you can, and then they'll make up the rest. And that's what Davidson does. And I think Harvard does that now. And so there are some schools, and they can do that because they have money, right? So there are some schools that you might think are out of your reach because...
Here we go.
Because you grew up like I did. Do you know what I mean? Like if you grew up where I did, like I would never have imagined that like any of those kind of places would ever take me. And I ended up going to Mills College, which is an amazing school, small liberal arts college, like 750 students, undergrads, 1,000 total. One of the like highly ranked on the West Coast, really expensive, really cool. And I was like, I don't know if I could like go to that school because I have like a bad GPA and I don't have the money. But they looked at my entire record. They're like, oh, you did all these things. That's really interesting. We think you'd be a really great fit for our school. And I was like, great. And I went there and I graduated basically with a 4.0. It was almost a 4.0. There were a couple of like ear training classes I did not do very particularly well in, but like I basically got all A's except for like a couple of ear training classes, and like I got like graduated like a 3.98. And like remember, I had like a 2.8 in high school. I did not do well in high school, mostly because I was bored out of my mind, right? But being in the right environment made that experience really great. And then I graduated with a BA without a lot of debt at all. Because I was like, I had basically had a mix of like the GI Bill and then like fellowships from them and all of that. And I had to like take a little bit of a loan out, but not much. Way less than a lot of other people who go to much cheaper schools. So basically, there are some possibilities that you may not even realize because I didn't realize about them. Like I didn't realize that actually some things that seem like out of my reach may not have been out of my reach. And so I'm very thankful to a friend of mine to have told me that, because I never would have. Like, I don't know if I would have gone to college at all in the end if she hadn't told me that, you know? Anino says, yeah, my parents were super helicopterish. To get them off my back, I deliberately tanked my first semester of college in order to weed myself out of the pre-med track. Oh, that's interesting. I assume you didn't want to go pre-med in the first place, right? Sinful says, the firewood business was just a kick in the foot to the college person that says I would never own a successful business because I didn't go to high school often enough, even though I was sickly. So I started this business with my own intention of sticking a sock in that professor's mouth. Good for you. Good for you. And also, the thing is, if your grades dropped because you were sick, you just put that in your personal statement. And that's the thing, that if you go to a school that actually looks at your personal statement, that asks you for one and looks at it and notes those things, you can explain a lot of things. Like, I have personally voted yes to accept people whose grades were questionable because what they explained in their personal statement made sense. Like, some people were sick. The reason why their grades tanked, their GPA wasn't so great, was because they were sick. And we're like, oh, okay. But the classes they were in, they did really well. Their personal statement's good. They've got good letters of recommendation. Sure, we'll take them, you know? And so, like, you can explain these things. And if you go to a school that, has enough resources to look at those things more specifically, a lot of things can be overcome, I would say. Okay. Well, all right. And also, good on you for turning spite into positive motivator. Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful I actually did it. I've met a lot of people and have a lot of connections I would have never obtained otherwise. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes. I see you, Jer. I see you. Yes. I'm going to ponder that. It's easier to call me lazy and force me to extra tutoring in German instead of getting me dyslexia help. Yeah. And he says, I didn't even want to go to any of the schools on my list. Oh, interesting. Money was wielded like a weapon, really, in my family. Yeah. If I applied to a school they didn't like, they wouldn't pay for college. And after I tanked my first semester, they withdrew money support anyway. So, well, F me. Ooh. And you know, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Yeah. Vo says, reminds me of the guy who my aunt tutored that was completely illiterate until the age of 11 and ended up getting a PhD by the age of 23. Yeah, I mean, like, there's this, I think that, especially if you do not grow up around college, right? Because I didn't. My mom didn't graduate high school. The dad that I grew up with graduated high school, but I think the most he did was, like, he took like one or two acting classes from the local community college, right? I think that's like, where I'm at. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save now and then chat with you all to wind up is what I'm going to do. Let's save. We were super productive, everybody. I just want to note how extraordinarily productive we were. We did so much. I feel like we are superstars. I'm just going to point that out, how amazing we are. So, Anino, this is a thing that has always frustrated me. And like, I understand the reasoning behind some of it, but I don't like it. And it is this. It bothers me that students who are legal adults at 18 are like, their parents' finances are still counted for them when it comes to financial aid in universities. And I get it somewhat. Like, there's a part of me that understands, like, for example, if your parents are super well off and they're claiming you as a tax write-off, which some parents do, if they're claiming you as a tax write-off, then I suppose they should be expected to support you. But some parents don't support their kids. And if your parents are not supporting you, I do not think that you as a student should be penalized when it comes to your financial aid. I don't think that's fair. Yeah, FAFSA is the worst. See, Prax, yeah, right? Like, this is how I feel about it, right? Like, and I think about this because, I mean, I didn't have to worry about my parents because I was 25, and 25 is the cutoff that once you're 25, you're considered independent. But also as a veteran, so even if I'd gone to the college earlier because I was a veteran, it wouldn't count. Or if you're married or have kids. So if you're like 18 and you're married, then your parents' income won't count against you. So like, it's like married, kids, veteran, or 25 are the things that will like make your parents' income not count for you. It's just that some parents are not supporting their kids. And I just think that if some parents are not supporting their kids, the kids should not be penalized. Right? Because if you are 18 and your parents are not supporting you at all, no matter how rich they are, and they're also not claiming you as a dependent, and you're just completely independent, and you have like $14, you should be able to get all the financial aid, right? That just seems only fair to me. It just seems only fair. Yeah, they're expected to support you, but not required. And if they're not supporting you, I don't think that should count against you. Yeah. Sinful says, see, college was never a priority until, for me, my last year of high school, maybe. And now that I'm growing out of side high school, it's starting to get a little more important. I mean, I'm only 19, so I get told I've done enough for my age. Like, I'm a landlord and I own a seasonal business, but I don't know. I still want to go back. Yeah, it's mega bullshit. Like, I think if they're not going to support you, then they should be able to claim on your taxes. Like, there's there's a double dipping that just screws over because here's the thing. If they're claiming you on their taxes, you cannot claim yourself on your taxes, right? So I've had students who's had this problem where their parents are claiming them but not supporting them, which means they cannot, when they do their taxes, because they have to do their own taxes, they don't get to write themselves off because they're counted as a dependent of someone else. So they get screwed for financial aid and their taxes, and their parents are just like, it's messed up. It's messed up. It's messed up. If you're in their household, then they are supporting you. The problem is when they're not supporting you, right? Like, I think that's the problem. Like, they're when they're not actually supporting you, and I think that's messed up. That sometimes parents are not supporting their kids at all, but still claiming the taxes on them, and then, right? That's kind of messed up. Like, Sinful, 19, you own a business and you're a landlord. That's impressive. That's pretty amazing. And also, I just feel like having taken a year off or so, I think when you go back to college, I think it'll be a better experience for you because you'll have a little bit of perspective that will make it a better experience. I think it'll be better for you. Anita says, like, I was fortunate enough that I had a skill that I could monetize at the time to keep me in school, but I would have been more successful at school if I wasn't so trapped by circumstances and had to make a decision whether or not to go to class or go to work. Yes, right. And yeah, I just don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair. And to go back to Anino for a moment, Anino, I have known so many students whose parents were basically blackmailing them, right? Like, if you don't do this, I'll withhold, right, financial aid, and then you're gonna have to drop out of school. If you don't do this, right? And in things that were like not great for that student. And of course, I also knew students who came out to their parents as queer, and then their parents cut them off, and then they had to drop out of college because their parents were no longer supporting them. Like, so like, it just feels a little unfair. That's all. It feels unfair to me. Hey, I heard about a successful entrepreneur here. She was on many computer boards and doing all manner of stuff and having a family, yet she decided to follow her dream and go to police school and become a cop. Oh, that's so interesting. Good for her. Sinful says, to be fair, the landlord thing was passed down to me by the firewood business. Was just out of spite, but I keep doing it because I enjoy it. Yeah. Like, that's cool. And I'll say, you know what? If you want to go to college, go to a college that will take your time to find a college that will serve you well, right? That has like, go and sit in, like, you can sit in, like, I teach classes for prospective students, or prospective students will come in and sit in my classes all the time. So like, go and look at the classes, see what's interesting there. See if it makes you excited, right? Like, see if you're like, oh, I could take this class. That professor seems like I would actually learn something from this experience. Or like, I like who my fellow students are, because you also learn a lot from your fellow students. So try to find a place, and that place might be a super expensive school, but it also might be a community college. It depends. Some community colleges are amazing and are really, really good. Some are less so. Same thing with like public schools and private schools. Like, so like, just go and check it out. Go and see if it feels good to you, and try out those classes. And then if you want to go, because yeah. I honestly thought about doing an apprenticeship in different fields so I can explore more options. Yeah, do that, like, explore. Because here's the thing. Oh, you do high school days? Mostly, yeah, I do some. Yeah, I do some. Right, because we want people to come to our school. It's a different kind of market, right? I think that trying out different things is good. I went to Calhoun Community College, and that one professor ruined the entire college for me. I'm sorry. That professor sounds no good. No bueno. Do not approve. Do not approve. So y'all, it is almost 3:30, so I'm going to go. We're going to do a raid, though, because I feel like we haven't done a raid in a bit. But I want to tell you where you can find me next. So it is Saturday. Tomorrow, I'm taping an RPG stream, but you won't see that. Thank you. So Monday at 1 p.m. over at Unmade Gaming, you can find me for the RPG Twilight 2000, which is the new edition. It's like the new one, like it's the game from the 80s. They brought back a new edition, so you can find me that. It's a one-shot, so you can see that. Wednesday is City of Cats over on Kobold Press at 4 p.m. It'll be the finale, I think, actually. The one that we're filming on Sunday. Thursday. Oh, right. Thank you, by the way. By the way, Jer, will you put in the bunker that I need to change the RPG command? Could you do that for me, please? Because I really need to change the RPG command because it is not current. Please. So Thursday is actually a big deal. 4 p.m. my time, 4 p.m. Eastern. So Thursday's a big deal. So Thursday, I will not be playing The Long Dark on Thursday, as far as I know. I don't think I will. Thursday's going to be the big New Year's Eve extravaganza. Yes, I'm doing it. Yes, but do it again so I will not forget, because I need to remember. I just need a second nag. So Thursday's going to be my New Year's Eve extravaganza. So on Thursday, we'll chat. I will talk about what happened in the foxhole last year and what my plans are for the new year, and we'll just talk about those things. Like get surprises, talk about stuff. We may play a video game, we may not. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be like I'm not going to hold myself to playing a video game. If we don't, if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. But it's going to be like a New Year, and we're gonna spend New Year's together. That's what we're gonna do. We will party and more foxes, and then I will say Friday, which is the 1st of January. I will not have Aether's Walkway. I should take that off because we will not have it. Will there be an RPG on Friday, the 1st of January? I don't know yet. It depends on how my planning goes. We will see. We will have Cthulhu Confidential for the last 3 Saturdays, but if I do a Friday night will depend on how this week goes. We will see. And then what it is will also depend. I've got some things in my brain, so we'll just find out. Do you do snacks and drinks? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. So, everyone, thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you being here, and I appreciate the wonderful conversations we had about education and everything, right? Like all the stuff we talked about. Sinful, look into schools that you think might be out of your reach, because they may not be. That's what I'm going to say. And remember, schools with money also have money for fellowships. That's my big advice. And we're good. I almost forgot. We're going to do a raid because I feel like we haven't done it, and I really want to. I feel like that would be really nice. Yeah, like it's because here's the thing. It's advice that I didn't know. I never would be where I'm at right now if somebody hadn't told me that. No, I don't tend to eat on stream. I don't tend, like maybe like a jelly bean or something, but I don't tend to eat on stream so much. You know what? Hey, you know what we're gonna do? I had a thought. It looks like Inter Elysium is streaming right now, but Inter Elysium also is kind of big. Oh, Sinful, I'll give you one. I did eat a muffin once. I will give you one other piece of advice, which is not relevant to you right now, but may be relevant to you later. And that is this. I was once told by my professor in undergrad, hey, have you thought about getting a PhD? And I said, no. And she said, maybe you should. I think you'd be good at it. And I said, I cannot afford that. And she said, good PhD programs will pay you. Again, maybe I did my grad work from like 2001 to 2008-9. You'll be getting more than 17,000 a year at this point. But the point is that I had no idea that if I got into a good PhD program, I wouldn't actually have to pay tuition. And so then I applied, and then I got into a PhD program, and then I got a PhD, and now I'm a professor. My point being that I never would have applied for a PhD program if somebody hadn't told me that in really good PhD programs they pay you and you don't pay them. Because I just didn't know that. I had no idea. So that's the other thing. And so now I try to tell everybody, especially people who are like working class, people who may not know that. I try to tell everybody I know that bit of information because maybe that person might want to do that one day. You know? Yeah, I do. I have a PhD. I'm here, Dr. Professor Trooper. That I thought it was synthesized. I got my PhD in musicology, which is let's say music history, and my PhD thesis was specifically on the song "Falling in Love Again," which if you know your old stuff, it's from the film The Blue Angel, 1932, with Marlene Dietrich, sort of German film, and it's on that song, and I look at her version of the song that she did as a single. Well, actually, I first look at the score that the composer wrote, Friedrich Hollander. Then I look at two different versions by two different dance bands. Then I look at a version by Marlene Dietrich. And I look at a version by the Comedian Harmonists. And so that's like 5 different versions that I'm looking at. And it's at like 1932, so it's right before Hitler comes to power, so right before the transition. It's like right at that transition moment from Weimar Germany to Nazi Germany. And so I'm looking at this song which can be read in multiple different ways. There's like ambiguity in the song. And I look at it as a way to sort of talk about youth culture, jazz, gender, sexuality, in the transition from Weimar to Nazi Germany. And when I have time to turn that into a book, which is not the thing I'm working on right now because it's not as time sensitive, I would also add in the way she sings it in the film, The Blue Angel, because she sings it at the beginning of the film and at the end of the film, and she sings it totally differently. And most people, when they talk about that film, they tell a story of the film, which I think is a bad story. They're like, oh, The Blue Angel, it's about a evil femme fatale who destroys men. And I was like, well, that's one reading of the film. But that's only the reading that you would have if you like the professor guy and you think that he's the protagonist. But if you actually pay attention to her and what she's doing and how she sings this song, you're going to get a totally different story, because she starts the song singing it actually quite innocently. And by the time she finishes it, after he tries to murder her, she sings it very bitterly. So like, there's a whole different story to the film that you would get if you look at that. And then I would also sort of finish it by looking at the English language version of the song. And there's like a British translation and an American translation and the difference between those two, and how the American translation is actually pretty regressive, and what Marlene Dietrich does when she's confronted with this American translation, which is kind of gross, and what she just decides not to sing, and how it's the difference between like performer and like performer agency and like politics right in the 1930s. Like that's what it's about. Yeah. That period is very interesting to see. Oh yeah, me too. Like I've just done a whole lot in the interwar period. There's just like a lot there. So it touched on the crossover of history, sociology, and music. Yes, but I would say that that's what my field is. Like, so I am what is called a new musicologist. New musicologist. I'm gonna go eat. But I want us to do a raid. So I'm what is called a new musicologist. Oh yeah, let's go to Utopia. That'll be nice. And new musicologists are very controversial. Basically, they're super controversial. People get all upset about us. Like old musicologists think that we're the worst. But whatever. And new musicologists, basically, like old musicologists are mostly like historians. And new musicologists are historians, but they've also added in a lot of sociology and critical theory. So like I got a lot of training in critical theory and sociology that the old musicologists did not get, and they tend to think that is like they don't trust it. They think it's weird. But basically, yeah, I kind of like I do a mix of like sociology, critical theory, and history and music and music theory, and that's my field. So let's do Utopia, everybody. Utopia is like a cool space. They don't have a whole bunch of people going on right now. They're doing Twitch Sings, which seems really exciting. So let's give them a raid. And this is our raid command. And let's give them some love. And I will see you all on Monday, maybe? If not Monday, then Wednesday. If not Wednesday, then Thursday for New Year's. Happy holidays. I will see you. And we're going to do the raid. And we're going to give them some love. And Vo, it's so good to see you, by the way. Let's go. Are you not also called Marxist Music Store if you look at more than one song, more than the song? Depends. Depends on what you're talking about. So, we're gonna do the raid. Bye, everybody. Raid! 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 Raid!